Okay. I think we're good to go now here, guys. Hang tight. Let's just make sure we're all on the same page here. Let's see. Oh, that's funny. Let's see here. Brianna says it was that damn coyote that's been biting people.
Coyote Gate.
Guys, you can hear us now, right? I think so. When I get the go-ahead from the live streamers, all right, there we go. We're good, they said. All right. I know you're bummed out. You thought you missed the song of the day, but don't worry. We're going to do this again. All right.
I have to do it again?
Oh, of course. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Friday, January 10th. Happy Friday. Is moments away. But before we get going, we need to thank the following unions for sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, not Aerosmith, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 sponsor this program, as well as our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. All right, so the audio's good, but now I guess the video's blurry. I'm getting Brian the video tech in here as we get today's show going. By the way, if you're in a union or you own a business and you want to sponsor this program, we'd love to have you. Unless you're running some shady operation, then I don't know, you can keep your money. But if you're listening and you'd like to sponsor, boy, reach out and we'll make that happen. All right, Ben, hit him with that song of the day.
I heard this song coming into work today when I was driving. My hands wet on the wheel. But that's not the song I'm going to sing. It's just another brick in the wall. It turns out you know the song. I was shocked.
Yeah, it's
way
Pink
before
Floyd.
your time. Man, I love that song. What a great song. And what's the last line? It goes, how can you eat your pudding if you haven't eaten your meat? What is the line?
I don't know. It sounds gross.
Frank's got to know that. You can't have your pudding unless you've eaten your meat. Whatever.
Aren't you glad you got audio now, guys? All right, your Ben Joravsky Show.
That's funny, man.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts right now. Thank goodness it is Friday, January 10th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Ben, how can you have your pudding if you haven't eaten your meat?
Yes, who said that?
That's Steven. Today on the program, it's another Romana Rundown with Sun-Times editor Romana Hussein. The Illinois political know-it-alls, Dan Pogorzelski and Jacob Kaplan return, and it's the return of McHenry County Committeeman Peter Janko. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Emperor Trump Friday. And here's why. So the week began, D, with the discovery, the discussion, we already discovered it, that our president, Donald Trump, the man that America decided was most qualified and best suited to lead the free world, don't blame me.
Collusion.
I didn't vote for him. The man that America decided, one more time, no collusion, to lead the free world and decided it was a good idea to assassinate the top general in Iran. And a country we're not currently at war with, though if President Trump gets his way, it may end up in a war with Iran. Anyway, Trump's assassination of General Soleimani raised all kinds of important constitutional questions, such as, does the president have the right to kill the leader of a country, even if we're not at war with that country? If the president does have the right to do so, is he obligated to let Congress know, that would be the other branch of government, in on his plans before he executes them? 3, has he given any thought to the collateral consequences of killing the top Iranian general? You know, like, will this lead to a counterattack by Iran? If so, where will that counterattack come from?
You said that was number 3, right?
Yes.
Number 3.
Who will pay the consequences for him deciding that it was a good idea just on his own to kill the top general in Iran? So was there any kind of study, investigation, discussion, analysis, anything remotely resembling a thought before he decided it was a good idea to kill the top general in Iran? Well, here we are at the end of the week, and the president has weighed in with some answers to these all-important questions. His answers come in the form of a speech he gave at a campaign rally yesterday in Ohio. And it didn't get a lot of coverage. This country is becoming curiously indifferent to the campaign rallies of Donald John Trump, the man that we decided was a good idea to have run the free world. My knowledge of the rally comes in the form of an article that appeared in today's Chicago Sun-Times. Trump, killing of Soleimani was, quote, American justice. So that answers our first question. Does he have the right? Yes. He declares he has the right to do it. It is called American justice. All right. Does he have to alert Congress? And if so, what constitutional provision can he cite to say he has the right to do this unilaterally without congressional approval? And he weighs in saying, yes, he has the right. And no, he doesn't know if there's a constitutional proviso that says he has the right because he doesn't care. Here's exactly what he said. Quote, we got a call. We heard where the general was. He knew the way he was getting there. I have no idea what that means. We didn't have time to call Nancy. That would be Nancy Pelosi, who isn't operating with a full deck. There we go. She's not operating with a full deck. And by the way, while he's at it, he's going to make fun of Adam Schiff, who has nothing to do with the killing of Soleimani, but of course is the head of the House Intelligence Committee, which was overseeing the impeachment process. And he says about Adam Schiff that he has a pencil neck. All right. So if he has decided that the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, how's he put it, is not operating with a full deck, and if he has decided that Adam Schiff has a pencil neck, then he is not obligated to tell them at all about his plans to kill the top general in Iran, regardless of the consequences. He's president, so he gets to say so. Did he consider the collateral damage? No. For that matter, my friends, he didn't consider anything. He said he was given the word that where the general was, and he said that's within my right to kill the general, and if you don't like it, F you. Essentially, that speech yesterday was two giant middle fingers raised in the air to the Democrats, to Congress, to American people, to anybody who dares to disagree with them. It's arrogance, but this is why the president is so arrogant. I can almost understand why the president is so arrogant. He's very confident. Our system of government, in our electoral system, it's not popular vote. It is, of course, electoral college. President Trump has figured out, doesn't take much, that he has virtually the election sewn up because, 4/5 of the electoral votes are under his control. The election will come down to essentially 3 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. As long as he can persuade most of the people in those states to vote for him, it doesn't matter how many people in California or Illinois or even Texas, for that matter, vote against him. He gets to be the president of the United States. He lost the last election by 3 million votes. He could lose this election by 10 million votes. It won't matter. He's free to do whatever he wants, regardless of what the majority of the people in this country say, because of our system of government, folks. First thing I would advise Democrats is to do something about that system of government. And of course, that's the last thing on their mind. They're not paying attention to it at all. I guess they're hoping that they can just outlast Donald Trump as he gives them the middle finger. Let's review. Congress has subpoenaed documents and witnesses from the Trump administration. He has defied those. Congress has insisted that he should notify them in advance of his intentions to kill top generals of countries throughout the world. He's defied them. Moreover, he's declared that he's the right to kill absolutely anyone in the world, regardless of the consequences or the blowback or what the Constitution says about the division, the different branches of government. He has that right because he has given it to himself, apparently, and he's very confident that the American people, at least the American people who live in states like Wyoming, Alabama, Idaho, Montana, what else? Louisiana, South Carolina. Apparently, these are the only states that really matter in our country anymore. He feels he has the right to do whatever he wants because the voters in those states will re-elect him. And it doesn't matter what people in Illinois or California or New Jersey or New York have to say. That's just the way it is. He's our emperor, folks. We didn't elect a president. We elected an emperor. We now live in the kingdom of Trump. We got a great show today, everybody. Romana Hussein will be here from the Chicago Sun-Times. Yes, indeed. It's another Romana Rundown. We have a lot to talk. We talk about the pending defamation case against Donald Trump. This didn't get a lot of news. It's sort of been lost in the shuffle. But a writer named E. Jean Carroll has accused President Trump of raping her. Trump laughed her off, dismissed her, said she was a crackpot, et cetera, and so forth. She countered with a defamation lawsuit against Trump. Trump immediately had his lawyers moved to have the case dismissed on a technicality having to do whether or not he made the comments in New York, because that's where the case was filed. The judge in New York ruled against Trump. The case is pursuing. So it's an interesting one more thing for the Republicans to consider. We were talking yesterday about the Democrats. Here's the difference between Democrats and Republicans. We were talking yesterday about the story that's breaking here in Chicago and Illinois about Michael McLean, who was a confidant to Michael Madigan, writing 7 years ago an email on behalf of some unknown employee in the bowels of Patrick Quinn's administration, saying he helped with containing news about a rape in Champaign. Democrats everywhere throughout the state, myself included, are calling for an investigation. Let's see what this is about. Did Democrats bury evidence of a rape in Illinois? That's how Democrats treat allegations of rape. On the Republican side, the President of the United States, the most powerful man in the country, the leader of the Republican Party, the man to whom the Republicans bow down in deference, has been accused of rape. What are Republicans doing? Absolutely nothing. They continue to bow down to him. So it's a very interesting contrast between how Republicans and Democrats respond to allegations of rape. We'll be talking about that with Ramon Hussein. Peter Janko will be here in McHenry County Democratic Committeeman. He's bringing a mystery guestee. Peter just returned from Iowa. Huge Bernie fan. We don't have enough Bernie fans on this show, huh, D?
No.
We're reaching out to Joe Biden people. Come on. Can we get any Joe Biden people out there? But Peter...
Pat Quinn.
The aforementioned, we should bring Pat Quinn back and talk to him, if nothing else, about what went down 12 years ago with that matter of the alleged rape in Champaign. We should bring Pat Quinn back. Yes, good idea.
There's an alderman, too, Rod Sawyer.
Rod Sawyer is another Joe Biden. We'll reach out to Rod Sawyer, see if they come on and defend old Joe Biden. Grandpa Joe, as Dennis likes to call him. Dennis, becoming more and more of a fan of Joe Biden as the days pass. Anyway,
I tell you just paint a lot of pictures for old Dennis. I love Mayor Pete. Joe Biden's my guy.
And don't forget, who else do you love? I can't remember at the moment. Anyway, Michael Bloomberg. You're a big, huge on Michael Bloomberg. Yeah. And so Peter Janko will be coming in and talking about, among other things, Bernie in Iowa. And then the political know-it-alls. We'll close out there. I love it when the political know-it-alls come in. Jacob Kaplan and Danny Pogorzelski. And we'll be talking about the way delegates are selected. We're going to take a deep dive in delegate selection, nominating petition challenges, real geeky political stuff that you got to know if you want to know how the game is played. So the political know-it-alls will be here, and they'll be sharing their knowledge of the political system with you. But before we do any of that, the young man from Alton, Illinois, the man who is widely known throughout the state of Illinois these days as Dr. Doobie with the news.
We're just... leaning in on that one in the year 2020, huh?
In the year 2020.
How's it going, everybody? Name's Dennis. Not a doctor, not Dr. Doobie, none of that. Just Dennis. All right, let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. And today on the program, we are going to all of our friends on the Benny J Show live stream chat. By the way, if you're listening via download at the moment, thank you. But we encourage you to join us live sometime. We go live on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. Put us on while you're at work. If you can, please don't get fired listening to us. Or if you just find yourself with a day off of work, join us for a live Ben Joravsky show. Hear the bad or awkward parts that I edit out. And if you're feeling crazy, say hey to Steven, Brianna, Pat, Rod, Kyle, and the rest of the crew. Participate in the live stream chat. We talk politics. We have trolls every now and again. We make fun of Ben. Sometimes there's no audio. I panic. I fix it. The video is apparently blurry at the moment. I get called Dr. Doobie. It's a great time.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. D.
All of it.
And White Lightning.
Never Dennis. Once again, Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time on both Chicago Reader and Sun-Times websites and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. All right, so to those currently with us in the chat, we'd like you to help us out. And if this goes well, we'll make this a reoccurring thing. So don't screw it up, guys. I have no public events listed this afternoon for our Democratic Illinois Governor, J.B. Pritzker. It's a rainy Friday afternoon. Live stream chat. We're going to you. Tell us, What is J.B. Pritzker doing at this moment right now? What is J.B. Pritzker doing right now? That's the question we're asking you on the live stream chat. We'll be reading your comments after the news. And speaking of, well, it's time for a 2020 Cook County State's Attorney candidate update, Ben.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in case you weren't aware, when it comes to the 2020 Cook County State's Attorney election, it's on. Through 2 campaign ads in the span of 7 days, and of course, a crap load of money, one candidate this week officially moved to the head of the pack as the top challenger to incumbent state attorney Kim Foxx. He's Bill Conway. He's a former assistant state's attorney under Richard Devine and Anita Alvarez, a former U.S. Naval Intelligence officer, and if you ask this podcast producer, he's a bro. And people, the bro train came barreling through Cook County this week, and it ain't stopping, baby. We have now learned that according to the latest filings with the Illinois State Board of Elections, Mr. Conway has received an additional $650,000 in campaign cash. From whom, you may be asking? Well, from his billionaire father, of course. Yes, that's billion with a B, Ben. It's Bro Daddy.
Bro Daddy.
Bro Daddy Bill Conway Sr.
Bro Daddy.
The hefty donation comes...
Isn't that a song?
No.
Oh.
The hefty donation comes 3 months after William Conway gave $500,000 to his son's campaign to defeat Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx in the Democratic primary on March 17th. William Conway, a.k.a. Bro Daddy's donations to his son's campaign now totals at $1,150,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is. Campaign records show that Bro Daddy's latest donation has helped his son raise $701,600 in just 1 week from November 8th to the 15th. And the last big donation Fox received was from businessman Elsie Higginbottom.
So Elsie Higginbottom used to be one of my bosses.
So that's a Kim Fox update there.
Yeah, Elsie Higginbottom used to own the Chicago Reader.
Now, on Thursday, we heard the latest campaign.
How much did Elsie give her?
Elsie gave $25,000. Now, on Thursday, we heard the latest campaign ad from Conway, an ad reminding us of the time that Kim Foxx kept the $30,000 in campaign contributions from a 2016 fundraiser hosted by the now indicted 14th Ward Alderman, a.k.a. the guy who shook down a Burger King in his ward, Ed Burke.
Would that be Ed Burke?
That'd be Ed Burke.
Right.
Burger King Burke.
Burger King Burke.
And the state's attorney
have it your way.
You know,
is that Burger King or McDonald's?
That's Burger King.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you remembered something. Way to go, Benny J.
Have it your way. And then there's like, you could have the cheese or not the cheese. Ed Burke had it his way. Give me the campaign money.
And some chicken nuggets. All right.
That's your guy with Chicago, Ed Burke.
So, yeah, State's Attorney Kim Foxx hasn't necessarily made the wisest political decisions. Obviously, there's that mishandling of the Jesse Smollett case. And with this Burke ad, Fox kind of pitched Bill the Bro a giant softball there. And please don't get me started on how much bros love softball.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what a bro is. I'm really struggling with that one. I'm really I was asking you and Miles to help me out.
We gave you answers.
What's the difference between a bro and a hipster?
A bro and I said it the other day. A bro makes sure to bathe every day. Okay. Hipster will skip a shower every now and again. You know what I mean?
Well, that sounds about right. How does okay, here we go. How would a bro respond to the alligator in the Humboldt Park Lagoon?
How would a bro respond to the alligator in the Humboldt Park Lagoon? Oh, man, that's a great business opportunity.
And how would a hipster respond to the alligator in the Humboldt Park Lagoon?
Oh, well, I'll tell you. Hold on. Let me pull it up real quick. This is how they'd respond.
I've seen a whole lot of catfish, some turtles. No gators yet, though.
See the distinction? Kind of just like a mellower thing. Which one is more likely to smoke reefer?
Both of them.
Okay.
Now, in 2020, both of them.
All right. And again, I stand by what I say. You know, I was roundly criticized on this yesterday. I'm taking the strong stands. Bros like Hootie and the Blowfish. All right? There we go.
Hootie and the Brofish. All right. Dragon Slayer 19, what's up, man? He says, Dennis is a bro, Ben is a hipster.
Hey, I bathe every now and then, all right? What are you saying? I smell?
But hey, good news, Kim Foxx fans. The incumbent came back with a new campaign ad of her own on Thursday.
Okay.
We've yet to play it. Oh my God! And it says here we now have the audio. I have had such a day behind the scenes. I don't have the audio. I'm gonna have to go online and find it.
What, the audio of Kim Fox's
campaign ad. So Ben, I'm gonna have to ask you to stall here in a few.
Well,
minutes.
it's not stalling. I have to weigh in. All right, I'm gonna weigh in. Can I weigh in now?
Well, Ben, tell us your thoughts of yesterday's ad on.
I'm going to tell you
Ed
my
Burke.
thoughts. I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to talk to Ramon Hussein about this at greater length. I do not understand, in all deference to Bill Conway and his dad, I do not understand why they would choose this election of all elections to introduce themselves to the voters of Cook County, city of Chicago. If you have political aspirations, I understand it. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He's an intelligent young man. He has a great resume. He served our country. He, went to law school. Smart guy, right? So, and his father has money, and he's a Democrat. So he has a political future. It's like, he kind of reminds me in some ways of your favorite presidential candidate, Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, sure. Love him. He's great.
I just do that. I'm sorry. I won't do that anymore. But anyway, he kind of reminds me of Pete Buttigieg, very smart, young, ambitious politicians. And there's no problem with that. That's how you get ahead in this country. And I fully applaud them. Why would you run, having said all that, against Kim Foxx, knowing that you're not going to get black support in Cook County or at the city of Chicago, that she's going to be the recipient of the black support in this area, largely because she's been a champion of alternative justice in our country, instead of just in our city, instead of just throwing people in jail randomly. You try to avoid jail time. This is a movement that's developing throughout the country, not just in Cook County or Chicago. It's a lot of activists in the Democratic Party believe it. The black communities of Chicago have been hit hardest by the war on drugs, the unfair war on drugs. We're moving away from the war on drugs, at least in the state of Illinois. We've legalized marijuana. The opposition to Kim Foxx is largely rooted in Donald Trump's base. White voters. It's a backlash to how she handled Smollett Gate. And Smollett Gate is rooted in all kinds of symbolism having to do with Donald Trump. Justice Smollett made up a crime allegedly perpetrated by a couple of Trump supporters. Weren't they wearing MAGA hats, D? So as soon as he made up that crime, all the Trump supporters joined in supporting the investigation into Smollett Gate. And they turned against Eddie Johnson, who was the former police chief of the city of Chicago. They turned against Kim Foxx. All right, so that's democracy. That's how it breaks out, democratically speaking. But why would you join forces with them if you want a future in Cook County and Chicago politics? You see this is a racially divided issue. Why would you? I just don't understand. I don't know who gives the young man advice. And it just seems to me, just on the basics, this campaign will largely come down to sort of a symbolic referendum. Ramon Hussein has entered the room, so this is excellent because she can hear me set up our discussion will take place in a little while. This election between Conway and Kim Foxx has come down to more or less your opinion about Donald Trump in just the most basic, general ways. I do not understand what advice he was getting. Of course, I never met him. So he never came to me for advice, and he probably wouldn't take my advice if he came to me. I'm not sure any political wannabe would listen to me, but I just really do not understand the most basic, fundamental way. This is coming down to a race, which is essentially going to be about your opinion of Donald Trump. That's basically what's at issue in the Kim Foxx re-election campaign. And I do not know why any Democrat would want to go into a race where it more or less looks like he's an ally of Donald Trump.
Excellent job stalling, my
man. It's not stalling, it's me talking.
Here's the latest ad from Kim Foxx.
The tower I grew up in wasn't made of ivory, and poverty and gun violence weren't just on the news. I'm Kim Foxx, and that's why my work as state's attorney has taken on violence and injustice, putting more resources to prosecute violent crime and guns, taking on the NRA, and prioritizing justice reform, not jail time for minor offenses. For so many, it's crucial we get this work done. For me, it's personal we get it right.
All right, that's Kim Foxx. We're going to bring Ramon Hussein on after this break and get her talking about what she thinks about that commercial. But I stand by what I said, D.
Hey, you guys sorry about that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add there?
No, take a break and bring.
All right. Well, actually, we got to read our live stream comments here. Remember, I said that when JB Pritzker. What is JB Pritzker doing today?
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have a few people weighing in, and people also weighing in on the difference between a bro and a hipster. Please pay attention this time.
All right,
we were telling you yesterday.
Look, I'm taking notes. Go.
All right, great.
We're going to ask Romana the difference between a bro and a hipster. I'm going to put that on my list. Wait, don't do it.
I don't think there's much difference, actually.
All right, hold your thoughts.
First off, what JB Pritzker is doing today. Brianna in Chicago says he's at Lowe's buying toilets. Okay, Brianna.
The toilet gate jokes. That's left over from last year or 2 years ago.
All right, I'm gonna keep the question open. We got a lot of foul answers there that I can't really say on the program. So hey, if you're listening right now, tell us what you think. JB, no public event scheduled today for JB Pritzker. So help us out. What is JB Pritzker doing today? All right, now the difference between a hipster and a bro. All right, as we know, Bill the Bro Conway running for Cook County State's Attorney. And we've been just trying to figure this out. Brianna weighed in again here. She says, bros have high-paying gigs, wear expensive shoes / clothes, and buy all them high-rise apartments downtown. Ben and Dennis equal hipsters, not bros.
I'm a hipster. I don't think, is there like an age limit on being a hipster? I'm too old for a hipster. I'm an oldster.
So do you know or do you not know the difference between a hipster and a bro?
I'm starting to see a distinction that people are making.
I don't think they're that different.
For me, I buy clothes at Goodwill. I get those clothes. Maybe I am wearing one of Bill Conway's shirts right now.
Bill Conway owned that shirt 10 years ago.
Maybe. So let's see here.
They just have more facial hair, but it's kind of the same.
Wait, time out. Who? Hipsters?
Hipsters.
Don't bros have goatees?
Okay, bro tees.
Wait, time out. Aren't bros the ones that, this is something, that guy, okay, help me out, Romana. American Idol, the guy who's the sidekick, who interviews people.
I never watched that show.
I'm looking around. I mean, isn't his name Ryan?
Oh, you're thinking of Ryan Seacrest?
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't that a bro? Isn't that the quintessential bro?
He's not really bro.
Live stream chat, is Ryan Seacrest a bro?
Weird.
Yes or no?
Yeah, and he has that, like, bros, they don't...
You're thinking clean shaven.
No.
Bros are
No.
preppy.
Bros, okay, here's the thing that bros do. Instead of growing a full beard, what they do is they have this look that looks like it's a beard, but it's not really a beard. And so it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm just a manly guy. And my hair grows in. And, oh, boy, Seacrest has that. D, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's not a beard, but it's like...
Stubble?
It's not. It's like a little beyond stuff. You know who else does it? I think the guy's talented. Paul Rudd.
He's
Is it Paul Rudd a bro? Yes.
He's more of a hipster bro.
I give up.
Shout out to KMA. I think it's best you just give up. KMA Barry has weighed in. He said JB Pritzker is at home striving for perfection.
I'm not a perfect person.
That's excellent.
And he also said that JB Pritzker, we're getting some ones that aren't so foul-mouthed. He also says that JB Pritzker is trying to milk that butter cow.
It's the butter cow, which has
Don't do
9
that with
parts
your
to
hands.
represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right. It's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state fair tradition since at least 1922.
All right.
What is JB Pritzker doing right now? Weigh in on the YouTube live stream chat, and we'll keep you posted on our new character here on the Ben Joravsky Show, Bill the Bro Conway and Bro Daddy. Bill Conway Sr. We'll keep you posted on those stories as today's program rolls along. Don't go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show live from the Chicago Sun-Times. The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters. Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food,
arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Romana Hussein with me in the studio. Every Friday, it's the Romana Rundown. And we're going to put aside our great debate on what's the difference between a bro and a hipster. Although I stand by what I said, there's that style that bros have where they want to look as though, and there's nothing wrong with the style. I'm not making fun of the style.
They're just more clean cut.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about, where they kind of like grow the face, the hair.
You're talking about the meticulous facial hair where they'll have a goatee, but it's not a regular goatee, but it's really close to the face and it's like geometrical. It's not all
goatee.
bros.
Okay, now there is a look.
You're talking about that 5 o'clock shadow look.
But they want to have the 5 o'clock shadow at like 8 in the morning. Okay, so that is a bro thing.
We got someone on the line who may be able to help us find out what is the difference between a hipster and a bro. Is he a hipster? Is he a bro? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll find out.
I can look at them and
you know.
It's our good.
Women are harder to deduce.
It's our good friend Pat Whalen on the line. He wants to tell us about a show he has tonight. Pat, are you there?
I'm here, and you know I've been called a lot of worse things than a broster, but I think I walk that line. I'm right in the middle. You know, I have an 8 a.m. shadow at 5 p.m. is how I play it. It's a little different.
All right, Pat. Tell people what you got going tonight. It's a big deal in my humble opinion.
Oh, God, it is tonight. Ben, it's tonight. Oh my God. Okay. Well, you know, for those of you that don't know, I'm Pat Whalen. I host Good Evening with Pat Whalen. We're Chicago's only late night talk show news alternative. And what that means is something that we're going to explore a little further tonight on CAN TV. So this is public access television. They have cameras. They have microphones. It's very exciting. And even more exciting is this excellent lineup of guests returning to the Good Evening stage, even though it's a different stage. I digress. CJ Runn, an excellent performer, rapper, activist. You can look their feature that came out in the Chicago Tribune in 2019. And I'll also be joined for an interview with Alderman Andre Vasquez of the Chicago City Council. It's going to be an hour-long show. We'll be on all the CAN TV channels. We'll be streaming on Facebook. We'll be streaming on their website. And we'll also be live. And I think there are a couple seats left if anyone wants to send an email to rsvp@cantv.org. We're happy to accommodate as many as we can while keeping the fire marshal happy. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, Ben. There's a lot going on. And all I got to say is this 7 p.m. start time means one thing. Ben Joravsky's coming on the show in the near future.
All right, and Romana Hussein will be on. I'm going to encourage you to have Romana and Mick Dumke as a political tag team. They're a lot of fun to have on together. Romana Hussein and Mick Dumke, her husband, who's not a hipster.
So, yes, he is.
So do you need a ticket to get in, Pat? Do you need to have a ticket in advance to get into the show?
You get your ticket through said email, and that address again is rsvp@cantv.org, and they will send you an email back that says you are good to go. We might be passing a bucket for a suggested donation tonight, but this first one is on the house. We just want to see how it goes and how many folks we can get to come down to 1309 Southwood, roughly at Roosevelt and Ashland, to join us for episode 42, the special televised edition of Good Evening with Pat Whalen with Alderman Andre Vasquez and CJ Runn Tonight at 7 p.m., don't you know? I got to set my TiVo. I got to find my TiVo first, but we're going to make that happen.
All right. Thank you very much, Pat. And that's Pat Whaley. He's been on the show more than a few times. And best of luck to you. Break a leg, as they say. And I do hope that Romana Hussein and Mick Dumke make that show sometime because they're pretty funny when they're together. All right, Romana, let's get down to business. Wow, where do I start with this one? More serious tone. 2 rape cases in politics emerging at the same time, not getting a whole lot of attention, not the attention they warrant. One is in Illinois, having to do with an email that Michael McLean wrote. Mike McLean, who was a confidant, a former aide and ally of House Speaker Michael Joseph Madigan, and the other dealing with the President of the United States. Pretty serious accusation of rape against the President of the United States, getting almost no attention. So why don't we start with the President of the United States? E. Jean Carroll has accused the President of rape, and there was a development on this case this week. Why don't you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, E. Jean Carroll is an advice columnist for Elle magazine, which I have been subscribing for since the mid-'90s, full-time subscriber. And basically, they were on one of the first magazines, I think, that featured women of color, like they had consistently. But anyway, I get the magazine, so I definitely knew who she was when the allegations came out. I think she wrote an essay, or was it an excerpt from the book that came out where she talked about the different men in her life that were jerks. And then she mentioned that she was sexually assaulted by the now president of the United States, Donald Trump, in the mid-'90s. And I think it was in a department store,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Bergdorf Goodman, I think.
In New York.
Yeah, New York. I don't know. I know the store, but I don't think they have one in Chicago. Anyway, so Donald Trump basically denied that this happened. He denied the allegations. And so she, in November, filed a defamation lawsuit saying that his denials it's hurting her career and hurting her reputation. So yesterday in state Supreme Court in Manhattan, the judge basically rejected Donald Trump's lawyer's motion to drop the case. I believe was it to drop the case,
Dismiss the case.
Yeah, dismiss the case. The argument was that he didn't live in New York at the time, and he hasn't lived in New York, or didn't live in New York at the time, or didn't live in New York at the time the allegations were made.
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting that the judge basically mentioned Donald Trump's Twitter.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Twitter activity, and basically said he besides just saying that he didn't do it, or just like this whatever the lawyer said, he said I think was it a she?
Yeah, it was a she. The judge was a woman.
That Donald Trump didn't not even had a tweet, much less an affidavit. So I think the case is still pending now in court. And then apparently there's reading the article that you sent me from the New York Times. There is another defamation lawsuit by a woman who said that she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump. So there's 2 pending cases of defamation against Donald Trump, and they're still pending right now. So it's pretty interesting. And then E.G. Carroll did tweet. She wrote, "We move ahead." I think it was all in all caps.
Well, so what happened was Donald Trump's denial is typical Donald Trump. I talked earlier at the start of the show about the campaign rally he had yesterday in Ohio. I think it was yesterday, where he felt compelled not just to justify assassinating the top general in Iran, but to mock any congressperson.
It's Iran, by the way.
Oh, my bad.
I corrected someone earlier this week. I was laughing about it.
What did I say?
Iran.
It's
okay. Most people.
So in other words, so Iran. So he said it's that he has the right to assassinate the general. He has the right to assassinate pretty much any leader he wants to assassinate if he views it as a danger, detrimental to the United States interests. And if you dare to disagree with him, he will mock you and make fun of you. And so that's his attitude about congressional critics of his foreign policy. When it came to E. Jean Carroll, he did not only just deny that her allegations that he had raped her, but he mocked her and made fun of her, and said she's not even the type of woman that I would be attracted to, as though he would have raped somebody if he was attracted to them. So this is the president of the United States responding to a very serious allegation against him regarding sexual assault, and that was the basis for her filing the defamation suit. Because he completely trivialized her, mocked her, maligned her. And Trump's response, as you pointed out, was, well, it wasn't to deal with the merits of her accusation. It was a technical thing. Like, I was literally not in the state of Illinois, New York, when I said those things. She filed the case in New York. So therefore, if I wasn't in the state, it doesn't. It was on a technicality that his lawyer filed this lawsuit. It's interesting. I think she did talk about the allegations in the magazine in a follow up. Like, before she answered, readers, letters. I think there was some little blurb that she had. It was really short, but I remember her talking about it. So what do you? I had to explain to my husband who she was because he didn't know who she was. It's probably the first. I always know personalities and celebrity and. But he knew about the accusation. He knew about the accusations, but I was telling him, "Oh yeah, Eugene Carroll writes for this column that I write. I read magazine. I read." So. Then we have the situation that developed yesterday. We talked a lot about it. Dan Mihalopoulos was on the show from WBEZ. Actually, that interview will air tomorrow, right? It was a bonus. So Mike McClain, a former confidant to House Speaker Michael Madigan, made reference to a rape in Champaign that nobody, as far as I know, nobody knew about. And the allegation in the email, or the statement in the email that he said was that top aides to Pat Quinn should give a break to some unknown bureaucrat in the Quinn administration who had gotten in trouble, but we should give him leniency because he helped cover up this rape in Champaign. And now. Yeah, and then there was some talk about ghost payrolling, I believe so too. So WBZ broke the story. I believe they got the letter or got a hold of the letter. And it was an email, sorry. It's 2020. So anyway, yesterday the latest was that House Speaker Mike Madigan said he's not going to convene a special committee. So there's some back and forth on that. And it's just, and then Governor Pritzker was asked about it, and he said that he did not hear about any sort of rape in Champaign, and that they turned over this information to the proper authorities. That's the latest that we've heard, but nobody's saying anything else right now. Well, one thing, go ahead. One thing I will note, and I'm just pointing this out, the different reactions that Democrats and Republicans have to accusations of rape. At least. There's two very powerful figures in their own realm. One more powerful than the other, obviously. You have Donald Trump, leader of the free world, president of the United States, absolutely controls the Republican Party. And you have a man who is a former confidant or aide or whatever, an ally of Michael Joseph Madigan, who's perhaps the second most powerful Democrat in the state of Illinois. The Democrats at least pretend they're taking it seriously. They send out statements calling for an investigation. Republicans completely ignore the allegation that E. Jean Carroll has made. But doesn't it matter? Doesn't it depend on who is getting accused of the sexual assault? Because Bill Clinton, when he was accused of sexual harassment, weren't the Republicans all like, yeah, let's get them? And then wasn't during the debates between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, weren't some women who accused Bill Clinton of rape or brought in the audience and sat there? And then they had a press conference. Yeah. So I think it depends on who the accuser is. So I think with this case, it's like we don't know that much about what the allegations are in this alleged rape that happened in Champaign. I think if we knew more, it would be interesting to see what the reaction is between the two sides. Well, at least the Democrats, let me put it to you this way. At least the Democrats are willing to call for an investigation. I can't think of any Republican anywhere who's calling for an investigation. Well, it wasn't the House Republican Jim Durkin saying, we need a committee. So that's what I'm just saying. Like, he's saying we need
He's saying that we need investigation. I don't know what is, or we need the committee to be investigating this.
Yeah, Jim Durkin says that we need a committee to investigate the allegations. Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. We'll break that one down a little bit.
I know. Trust me, I know.
Jim Durkin is the Senate Republican, the House Republican leader, and he's calling for an investigation into the issues raised by the revelation of Mike McLean's email. And Michael Madigan says it's too sensitive to have a committee hearing, presuming that allegations of rape would be too sensitive to address in a committee hearing, which is an interesting thought. We'll put that as, let's take that. Well, okay, yeah, let's just assume that it is too sensitive to have an open hearing about that. Although we just had the Kavanaugh hearings last year. So, but then Durkin followed by saying, "Oh, well, what about ghost payrolling?"
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. And I have to say that I got most of my information. I know Dan Miopoulos did the story, but the original story, but I got most of my information from Tina Svandelis. And did you know Tina? This is a side note. Tina and Dan are cousins by some like they did some DNA testing and they found out they're related.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
I did know
Things
that.
I learned.
Tina yesterday told me I pronounced Dan Miopoulos' name wrong. So I'm just letting you know you're not the only one who pronounces.
I mispronounced his name. I mispronounced Iran. How do you pronounce Desplaines?
Displains.
Okay, you just mispronounced that name.
Well,
okay?
That's true.
Okay. Clem Balnoff in the studio. He's saying, yeah, man, I took French. I took French at Bowen High School. Okay, I know how to pronounce Desplaines.
Well, frequent guest Samina Mustafa, who comes here when we're younger, and she goes, it's actually not Devon Avenue, it's Devon. That's how it's supposed to be pronounced. And I'm like, well, we call it Devon.
I'm always mispronouncing everything and getting called on it for it. But I just, and then there's my favorite. Here we go. Goethe.
Oh, that's Goethe, right? Goethe or?
I'm looking at Clem Balnoff. He's a distinguished graduate of Bowen High School. Is it Goethe? I'd say it's Goethe. He says, "Hey man, Clem." He knows it's Goethe. I'm alerting people to the fact that Clem is in the studio. We brought in Larry Cohen, who's going to be our next guest. But anyway,
way to talk to people without microphones on the program. That's awesome.
Where did you get those buttons?
Just keep going.
All right, Goethe, Goethe. Anyway, all right, enough on pronunciations. I still believe that there's a basic difference between the way Democrats and Republicans respond to accusations of rape, and doesn't seem to be a big issue in the Republican Party. That is for sure. Democrats are struggling with how they proceed. And you're absolutely correct. In 1990s, Democrats should be ashamed of themselves for the way they buried all allegations against Bill Clinton because they thought it was far more important.
I think it depends. Remember the Anita Hill hearings? Joe Biden was part of the committee and kind of dismissed Anita Hill.
Kinda? You could take
I know, it
did.
But I'm just saying, I don't know. I think a lot of women would disagree with you, not saying it's a Democrat or Republican thing.
Well,
I think it depends on the situation.
No, what I'm saying
and I think it's changed. The tide has definitely changed. I don't know if you saw Harvey Weinstein. His trial started. He came in a walker, and if you saw that.
I did see that.
But, people are talking about it a lot more. But, sexual harassment has been a problem for years and has been hidden by, doesn't matter what political background people had for years.
Absolutely. But I do believe that the Democratic Party in its own clumsy way is trying to deal with it. After all, Franken stepped down as senator in Minnesota. And in contrast, Roy Moore ran as the Republican standard bearer for Senate in Alabama. So I do believe that Democrats are struggling with it. But you're absolutely correct. The Democrats in the 90s with Clinton, shame on all of them. Although that's a tough struggle. How would you have gone in the 90s if you were a Democrat? Would you have voted to impeach Bill Clinton based on the evidence against him, or would you have said no, it's not worthy of impeachment?
I don't know. I think he deserved the criticism, and I think scrutiny was definitely needed. If I don't remember what came to impeachment, I remember just being a young journalist and just reading about it, but I should have read about it more. But I think that was political too. Like the Democrats are obviously, I think it's a completely different situation with Donald Trump. I think more people would be like, yes, I think Donald Trump the impeachment hearings need to be taking place with him. But
I have to admit.
I think a lot of things that Bill Clinton is accused of, I think a lot of women do have problems with. I can tell you that much.
Well,
and I think if it was today, I bet a lot of Democrat and a lot of female lawmakers would think differently. The squad definitely might have say that he needs to be impeached.
Yeah.
I think.
No, Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator of New York, came out with a statement that said he should have been impeached. This she said that earlier, and there was a lot of blowback about that. But back in the 90s, Democrats, and I could tell you this, Romana, because I was one of them, was like, oh, this is unfair. You know, they're just trying to knock down Bill Clinton. I think people have evolved to a certain degree on this issue. And we'll see how it plays out here in Illinois. All right. Smollett Gate update. We've been having a lot of fun teasing Bill Conway as a bro. But you and I talk about Jussie Smollett and the update.
Yeah.
What's the update?
The latest is that there's a special prosecutor that's been assigned to the case to see how Kim Foxx's office handled Jussie Smollett and the prosecution and the eventual dismissal of the charges against him. Jussie Smollett, if those of you who don't remember, was accused of faking a hate crime and saying that he was attacked by these Donald Trump supporters. Well, they were wearing MAGA hats. That's what he said. But according to what police were saying, is that he made up the whole attack, wanted to get more fame. And he was an actor that was on Empire. I think that's the last season this year, or maybe it's done. I don't know. Anyway, the charges are dropped, and then there's a special prosecutor that's looking into the case. His name, Dan Webb. I shouldn't say his name is Dan Webb. It's Dan Webb. And he basically, the latest is that he is seeking access to Jussie Smollett's emails, drafts, deleted messages, and even his search history and location data for Google. So I think the warrant was signed by Judge Michael Tuman. So it's interesting that he's looking for, there's going to be a lot of stuff. If once we get a handle of what exactly was said, what was discussed, and I don't know if you remember, but yes, obviously do remember, but there was a former Michelle Obama aide that was involved in, a phone call that was made to Kim Foxx before, the allegations that Jussie Smollett was lying came out when he was considered a victim. Yeah, I forgot her name for a second. So the judge signed off on the warrant, and this is for Google information between November 1st, 2018 and November 1st, 2019. So that covers time before the attack, which happened in January 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and then up until just a few months ago. So it should be interesting.
Yeah,
this will definitely be interesting.
This will be.
I think there'll be a lot of things that come out that we know, or that we've been, people have been alleging, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of information comes out, because what the prosecutors were saying is that Jussie Smollett had two personal trainers that worked in Chicago with him when he was here, and there are two brothers, and the allegations are that he had them kind of help him stage the attack. And this is what they told police. And that's kind of like what cracked the case. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure there's going to be text exchanges between him and these two brothers, and then or Google, things that he was looking up, or information about maybe Tina Chen, information that he gave to his manager. Who knows? But it should be definitely interesting. I remember the day that we got this story. This is actually reported by the Tribune first, so we do have to give them credit. We're chasing the story after they. Do
you know who broke it from the Tribune?
Megan Crapo and why am I forgetting his name? Jeremy Gorner. Mm-hmm. I just saw him at a party a couple of weeks ago. I should know his name. But anyway, those two had wrote the story, and we saw it, so we're chasing it. And so I did have another reporter call Google in California. They didn't return our calls, but we're thinking they most likely they have to turn it over, right? Because
I don't know. The president of the United States says he doesn't have to turn over documents that are subpoenaed by Congress. So it'd be interesting if Google has to respond.
I would think they would. I think Andy Grimm, who wrote our story, talked to a legal expert who's also a lawyer, and he said that it's most likely they probably will. Well, again, this isn't the case. It's not the case of the century. It's what people want to look into to see what happened at the state's attorney's office, where Jussie Smollett was charged and then had the charges automatically dropped at his first court appearance after he was charged.
Yeah, no. As we say, this is one that's not going anywhere.
No.
Particularly with the state's attorney's race coming up in March, where Kim Foxx is being challenged. I think there's 3 people challenging her. They will be raising this, and then the Republicans will have a candidate in November. They think they could defeat Kim Foxx. I stand by my prediction, Ramon. I do not think Kim Foxx can be defeated.
I agree.
On this issue.
I think. I don't know if I was going to bet. I would say that she's going to be state's attorney again for her second term.
You cannot win. Essentially, comes as a symbolic race. If you're for better or for worse, the forces allied against Kim Foxx are linked to Donald Trump. That's not going to get you very far in Cook County or the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
All right, before I let you go and I bring on our next guest who are here waiting to come on and talk politics, Romana's recommendations, what do you got for us?
I watched Little Women last week. I know you did too. I almost came to the theater that you were watching it at, but we ended up watching, it was either Uncut Gems or Little Women. And Mick and I were having dinner in Evanston, and I'm like, well, we can eat really fast and get Uncut Gems, which I know he was dying to see. But I'm like, well, there's a 9, and he's like, we're not going to eat that fast. I'm like, well, then there's a 9:30 at Village Crossing.
Yeah.
Or we can go to 9 o'clock Little Women. And I was like, I'm not dying to see it, but I heard it's really good. So I went and saw it. I liked it. I read the book. I was telling Mick said that he never read the book, which I think is interesting because he reads a lot. And I told him, I think when I was 12, I was in India and I was in the house where my mom grew up, and a cousin of mine who's the same age as me, he gave me the book. He's like, I think you really like it. So I remember reading it in India, and I told Mike, I'm like, I don't know if I finished it, but I remember loving, every young woman that read that book identifies with Joe.
Mm-hmm, the writer.
They love it. And then after we saw the movie, Mick's like, wow, you should, he's like, a day later, he's like, I forgot to tell you, you should write a story. Because, he sees me. I have 2 other sisters and a brother. And so he's just like, oh, you need to write something about you and your siblings.
Do you remember the 94 movie?
Yes. And
with
Mick never saw that either.
Wow.
He doesn't know anything about, he didn't know anything about Little Women.
Yeah.
So I told him it's a little, she took a little liberty in it, from what I remember. But yeah, Winona Ryder was Joe. Claire Danes was in it. She was Beth.
For 10 trivia points, who played Lori?
Lori? Christian Bale.
Very good. Wow. Now, a little known fact, Clem Balanoff, huge fan of the 1994 movie, does not really like just teasing Clem Balanoff. He was the one who just escorted our next guest in. I can't. Just seeing Clem brings back memories. But I got to tell you, I love the movie. And I know there's this, for some reason, there's this revolt against it on the internet by men. I don't understand what that's all about.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's why Mick never saw the 94 version, because I told him, most guys aren't going to go watch Little Women. They don't want to watch a movie about young women.
I don't know why. I saw that. I saw the Katharine Hepburn version, which was in 1930s.
I never saw that one.
Yeah.
I did tell Mick, I go, well, I know there's a backlash of women of color who feel like, oh, do we have to see another movie with a bunch of white women?
Yeah.
I admit, I'm not saying that. I don't feel, and then, when we saw the one or two black people in the movie, Mick nudges me. He goes, oh, there's a person of color. And I go, yeah, they're like The Help or something, but...
All right, I saw it. It's a great flick. I urge everybody to see it. But I'm telling you, Romana, Uncut Gems, 2 thumbs way up.
I do want to see it.
Yeah, I urge everybody to see it. Adam Sandler is awesome.
We don't have time to talk about the Golden Globes, but I wanted to tell you, I wasn't offended by Ricky Gervais's comments like some people were, but I thought he was kind of funny because I usually don't find him that funny. I think he's kind of annoying sometimes, and I didn't like anybody's dress. Nobody's dress really wowed me. So
what about J-Lo?
I love the way J-Lo dresses, but I didn't like the way her dress looked like a Christmas present. And I tweeted that, and your favorite comedian Tiffany Haddish retweeted that or liked it.
Whoa.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
She liked
That's
some
cool.
She liked some of my comments.
Man, you should start doing that. Get someone to retweet something you say.
When Romana told me that today, I'm like, Tiffany Haddish, and it's true. I love Tiffany. I just saw Black Mitzvah, which is her Netflix comedy special. I urge everybody to watch that.
She's
hilarious.
Jewish. I was reading an interview with her, and she was talking about how she's going to have a bar mitzvah.
She did have
herself.
one.
Yeah.
I was unfortunately not invited, but it's very funny. I've been a big fan of hers for a long time, and when I heard Romana got retweeted by, I was like, oh man, I've never been
liked, not retweeted, but liked. She liked 3 of my comments.
Well, Ben's never had either. Don't worry. Been in that one.
I've never tweeted anything. Anyway, all right.
Oh, but you have a. So you're saying that you have somebody else deals with your Twitter handle?
Yeah.
Because you're that important.
No, because they make me have a Twitter thing.
Anyway, next time I think we should have a discussion about bros and hipsters.
Yes.
I have a lot to say about that.
I think we should dedicate the whole half hour to
Yes.
it, bros versus hipsters.
We have some live stream comments here helping us out more. I'm going to be reading those a little later on.
Good.
All right. Well, we'll see what our next guests have to say about bros versus hipsters if they weigh into that. We're going to be shifting gears, talking a lot about Bernie in Iowa and the upcoming presidential election. Anyway,
your girl dropped out of the race. Marianne Williamson.
Yep, that was my update there. Yep, Marianne Williamson has dropped. That's why I was looking for the
sorry.
button.
Did I?
That's fine.
No, where's my button?
Was that supposed to be a surprise for
Remember a few minutes? Man, Dean, what are you doing with those buttons?
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was. I can't find it.
You know, we now share the studio with Fran. She does her podcast out of here. So Dennis cleans up, or makes me clean up everything. So the buttons, I used to have all these buttons here.
We got some good ones here. Check this button out. Nothing to do with Marianne Williamson, but
Beto. It's been a while. I'm
Beto O'Rourke button. That's pretty cool.
Wait, where's our Bernie? Oh, here you go. We got some Bernie bros in the studio. All right.
Hey, here's a flashback. I don't think you'll like that one. Hillary and Kane. Remember that guy, Kane?
Tim Kaine.
Oh, I do.
Ramada, I know you were really motivated to vote in 2016 when she picked Tim Kaine as her running. All right, enough throwing buttons at me. Marianne Williamson is out of the race. We have Peter Janko coming in with his mystery guest. We'll be right back after this. Hey, everybody. What you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
It's the butter cow, which has 9 hearts to represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right, it's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state fair tradition since at least 1922.
Mr. Vice President. Vice President Biden.
I want to address Vice President Biden directly. Under your plan, status quo, you do nothing to hold the insurance companies to task for what they have been doing to American families.
Anytime someone tells you you're going to get something good in 10 years, you should wonder why it takes 10 years.
It looks like one of us has learned the lessons of the past and one of us hasn't. Let me begin by telling you.
Middle ground solutions, like the Vice President has proposed, or sort of middling, average-sized things are not going to save us.
We have a system right now that's broken. And if you want to compare records, and frankly, I'm shocked that you do, I am happy to do that. Because all of the problems that he is talking about, that he created.
Why did you announce on the first day a zero-tolerance policy of stop and frisk and hire Rudy Giuliani's guy in 2007 when I was trying to get rid of the crack cocaine?
Mr. Vice President, there's a saying in my community, you're dipping into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor. You need to...
You didn't answer my question.
I wrote the Violence Against Women Act, Lilly Ledbetter. I was deeply involved in making sure the equal pay amendments. I was deeply involved in all these things. You came to Syracuse University with me and said it was wonderful. I'm passionate about the concern making sure women are treated equally. I don't know what's happening except that...
That's enough, Joe Biden. All right, your Ben Joravsky Show. Hour number 2 is just moments away. Live stream chat, how's it going? We are having a good time. Pat Rod's on the live stream chat. What's up, dude? We're asking everybody, getting your guidance here. What is the difference between a hipster and a bro? All right, Ben Joravsky, well, he's been losing sleep over this, so we want Ben to sleep again. Help us out. We have some comments to read. Keep weighing in. We're going to get started here. All right, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is moments away, but before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8. They sponsor this show.
That's correct.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, sponsor this program.
That's correct.
The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 are sponsors.
That's correct.
And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2. Let's go.
That's correct.
Thank goodness it is Friday, January 10th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we welcome back our dear friend, Committeeman Peter Janko, and it's the return of the Illinois political know-it-alls, Jacob Kaplan and Dan Pogorzelski. And now your host, yes, an Illinois political know-it-all, Chicago Reader columnist, Benny J. Ben Joravsky.
Peter Janko is in the studio, and he brought a guest. Before we bring him on, do you have an update for me, D?
Absolutely, I do. Ben, take notes. We're trying to find out today the difference between a hipster and a bro. What have you learned so far, Ben? What a difference between a hipster and a bro is?
Well, hipsters bathe less than bros. That's something, and I have this vision of a bro.
Apologies to all of our hipsters who bathe every day.
And I was wrong. I had this vision of bros as younger people who were like in fraternities, and they didn't completely grow a beard, but they let their hair come out a little bit, and then everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy, but it's like Oh Boy in American Idol, and I said him, and nobody seems to know who he is, so I feel like...
Oh, because Oh Boy is just such a great hint.
You know what? I feel people are gaslighting me here today. I feel like the guy, the woman in that movie where the husband is turning the lights down, and then she says, "Honey, it's dark in the house." He goes, "No, it's perfectly bright." And then she loses her mind and ends up voting for Donald Trump. I feel that's what. By the way, that didn't happen. The movie came out in the 30s. But anyway, I feel that's happening. Ryan Seacrest is his name, and he doesn't grow a full beard. He has a little bit of a growth, and that is a bro. That is the definition of a bro, okay?
Well, our good friend Gamba, 915, weighed in. It's the first time Gamba weighed in here on the live chat. Thank you very much. Gamba 915 says, a bro is a Wrigleyville-dwelling, sports-obsessed to the point of it being his only personality trait, jock, wannabe, modern country pop-loving, Bud Light-chugging young man.
Wow, that just sums it up. So who are, Peter Janko, before we introduce our mystery guest, who do bros tend to vote for in the Democratic primary for president?
I don't know. We don't have any out by us.
It's McHenry County.
We're Trump country. I mean, we're solid Trump country. And we've got a really powerful progressive movement. So, I mean, we're like at both ends of the spectrum.
Well, that is a very interesting thing about McHenry County, where Peter Janko is a Democratic committeeman. But before, is that the end of the update, young man? Or do you have another?
Quite a few more. KMA Barry says, Seacrest, not a bro.
What is he then, a hipster?
I don't know. Johnny Joe says, Ben is a boomer. Brianna says, bros do not live north of Irving Park or west of California.
North of Irving Park.
Who doesn't live? Just what I told you.
Wait, time out. Who doesn't live north of Irving Park?
Bros do not live north of Irving Park or west of California.
I am definitely a boomer. In fact, I'm going to give our guests the quiz. That has to do with the presidential playlist. But before we do that, will determine whether they're bros, boomers, or hipsters. Peter, introduce our mystery guest.
Okay, our mystery guest today happens to be Larry Cohen, who's the executive chair of Our Revolution National, which is the political organization that came out of Bernie's 2016 run.
All right, Larry Cohen, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be with the legend.
Legend. That's what I am. I'm a legend. I like being
That's
a
what
legend.
Clem Balanoff tells me.
Well, if Clem says it is true. He's the pride and joy of Bowen High School, class of 1972. Am I right about that?
No.
71? Yeah. Oh, sorry about that, Clem.
Close.
All right,
You're a
Larry
kid.
Cohen. It's a big deal that you're in the studio. People have accused my show being too Bernie friendly. So I say this before we take the dive in this conversation. I'm open to Warren supporters as well. Basically everything from Joe Biden left on this show. And Joe Biden supporters, although I'm having a hard time convincing any of them to come on this show. They say I'm too Bernie friendly, but we have Elizabeth Warren supporters come on. We had Marianne Williamson herself was a guest, and she's no longer in the race. So anyway, we are open to listening to the other candidates, but in this particular case, you are very much, Larry Cohen, a supporter of Senator Bernie Sanders, correct?
Yes, I know him almost 30 years. I was the president of the Communication Workers Union and got to know him when he first came to Congress. I was not the president then, but he's somebody who puts working people first. It's not an afterthought, and that's how I knew him from 1991. And when I decided not to run again as president of the CWA, I said to him, I'll volunteer basically full-time as long as we're building a movement, not just another candidate as great as you are. And he said to me, Larry, I'm not going to be the president. Now, this is in June of 2015. We are going to build a movement. Now, within a month, he changed his mind about that he could win the presidency in 2016, let alone now. But anyway, that's how. And so out of the campaign, as Peter just said, we had groups all over the country, which was really the backbone of the campaign. And the idea was we keep those groups going. And it's not about a candidate. It's about what we call a triangle of issues as the base. We want better health care. We want to actually deal with climate rather than moan about it. We want to deal with student debt. So it's issues. If we win, whether it's at the local level, like Peter, or at the state level, like Peter, or at the national level, we actually want to be happier. The only real reason to do political work is to be happier for us and our children and our families. And so issues drives it. But then how do we make politics work? It is candidates and it is party building, state committees, changing the party so the party stands for something instead of just the 57 parties in the states and territories, instead of just the party is just there where people get ahead through the party themselves. So that triumvirate, really, that triangle, driven by good groups like Keene County or Will County or here in Chicago, that's really what our revolution is. And to me, that's what Bernie helped inspire. He really has never been a part of it, but he inspired it. And obviously, we decided a year ago across the country, our groups, to support him in running again.
All right, and there's a very specific reason you're in town, Larry.
Yep.
Why don't you state that reason right now, and then we'll move on. I got some follow-up questions I want to ask you, but before we do that,
appreciate that.
Stipulate why you're in town.
Yeah, so the groups statewide are coming together at 925 West Diversey Parkway. You were doing pronunciation before. I'm not sure how well I did from North Philadelphia pronouncing Diversey.
Oh, you got it right.
Okay.
You got it right.
You're better than me with Iran.
Yeah, well, we could compare words from Philadelphia and Chicago that we get wrong. But
what high school? Did you go to Central High?
No. I grew up in North Philly and went to a local high school there. You know Philadelphia pretty well, though.
A little bit, not that well.
Anyway, wait, before we forget, though, the meeting is at 10:30. We want people to show up. It's mostly group leaders from around Illinois, but people are willing to, are encouraged to join us there and hear about how we build this movement around issues linked to candidates and linked to changing the party, which God knows in Illinois is an important thing to do.
All right, and so one more time, what time was that? I cut you off.
10:30.
10:30 tomorrow.
At 925 West Diversey Parkway.
Got it. All right, now...
it's right next to the Diversey L station on the Brown Line, so you can't miss it.
You cannot miss it.
Holy Covenant Church.
All right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, Larry, I want to come back to something you said, and during the debate, we've talked about this so much time in the show. We analyze the debates after every single debate, and in not so much the last debate, but the previous ones, the Democratic presidential debates, there was a theme that emerged, and in those debates, Bernie Sanders was very clear. We need health care for all. Mm-hmm. That is a top on our agenda. I find it very hard to argue with that. I'm an old lefty. So, but immediately there will be a counterattack from the centrists And I can name like 4 of them. That Amy Klobuchar would say this. Joe Biden would say this. That for a while there was a guy Bennett. There was Michael Bennett. There's so many different candidates who've been on that stage. Some of them are no longer there. Bernie, you're unrealistic. You cannot have this. You can't get this through Congress. You have to be realistic, Bernie. Or then they go, we'll lose swing voters in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania because they're worried they're going to have to give up their private health care. They love their private health care. There's union. There was the guy, Tim Ryan, the congressman. Unions have negotiated for this, Bernie. How dare you take away? So what is your response to that? Like, you must be watching these debates and conjuring a response in your mind. What is your response?
Well, that issue, so I was president of the CWA for 10 years, 600,000 members. Every contract got taken over by the fight to keep the health care that we had that was bargained a generation before me. Every contract, Ben. Every contract. And despite that, and we had huge strikes like at Verizon, solely around holding on to health care. I'm talking about people out for 100 days. Despite all that, every time, the premiums go up, the deductible goes up, the co-payments go up. There's networks. Is my doctor in the network or out of the network? That is the big lie. Are we that happy in America, spending twice as much as in every other democracy? Twice as much, 17% of GDP, when the average is 10, and we have worse outcomes. What's an outcome? How long do we live? How many kids die? Any outcome you would pick that are measured worldwide by the World Health Organization, we are not at the top on the outcomes, way at the top on the spending. And so, more so than even Bernie, my pitch on this, and I see a lot of union people, that's basically how the part of our revolution that I helped build, is how many more horror stories do we need? Construction workers, a guy in New Hampshire told me recently, he's now a business agent, Larry, I fell. Luckily, it was only from 6 feet, but I landed on my head, had a concussion. Good news, my health care was great. Bad news, I went back to work, didn't have enough hours in that 6-month period. My wife and 2 kids and I had no health care for 6 months until I qualified again. This is, and in my own union, as I said, the premium's going up and up and up. At Verizon, with all those strikes, now it's $400 a month premium, and the company is still paying 33% of payroll. So, we're talking about over $30,000 a year per family for health care. It's a disgrace what exists in this country. And preying on people's fears that it's going to cost working people more money is a big lie. And I'll take any Democrat over this president at the end of the day. But I'm also going to fight for Medicare for all. It's within reach. It's the right thing to do. It will cut our costs. Things like long-term care. Everybody I know is scared about long-term care. Again, a postal worker leader in New Hampshire a couple of weeks ago, Janice, says to me, Larry, we have great health care, federal government workers. My husband got Parkinson's. Now we're selling our house to pay for his long-term care. Every other people who have kids who have disabilities, we don't cover it in any of these plans. None of the union plans cover long-term care beyond initial rehabilitation. What we have and what we pay for it is a disgrace. We need to call it out. In my opinion, the economic case comes ahead of the moral case. I love Bernie. I appreciate the moral case. The economic case, I could do it in an elevator ride. Lay out the numbers of how we pay for Medicare for all out of what we spend now. No income taxes. Payrolls, taxes, 10% additional on employers. That saves them a fortune. As I said, Verizon, 33% of payroll. They'd be glad to pay 10. Most small businesses, 20, 25% payroll costs, if you look at it that way, to provide health care for them. Give them a 10% payroll tax, they save a fortune. And that's the main way that we would pay for it. Plus the savings, 22% administrative costs. I don't know if you ever had to use health care. I'm fortunate, blessed, knock on wood, very little. But recently I had an eye problem, and you get these pages and pages of bills. That's what we're paying for. 22% of healthcare is administration. I'm not stupid, but I can't figure out the bill. I just put it in a filing cabinet. If they say pay $100, I pay it. Yeah. It's impossible. 22%. Medicare administrative costs is actually, I was corrected by the former head of MMS under Obama, 2.6% versus 20% administrative costs. That alone, Ben, is a savings of $600 billion a year. And if you add up that saving, the existing cost, government now spends $1.9 trillion on healthcare. Total bill, $3 trillion, right? You add up the $1.9 trillion, the $600 billion on administrative savings. Pharma, we're paying twice as much in these plans that supposedly everybody loves as the VA pays, and as China just negotiated, 50% less in China than what we pay here for the drugs that are produced here. That's if we cut that in half, that's a $250 billion saving. Add the 10% payroll tax. Now we have Medicare for all.
All right. Peter Janko is dying to get a word in edgewise. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. You nailed my favorite subject with no rehearsal.
Well, I got some comebacks
no
for you,
rehearsal.
but go ahead, young Peter.
Okay. I made an interesting observation. You know, we're in Trump country and there's conservatives and, you know, they don't buy into a lot of the Medicare for all stuff, right? So then I started thinking about this. I had some pushback. I had some people, oh, Pete, you're running for state rep. What the hell do you want Medicare for all? Why? It's not your issue, right? And I said, wait a minute. It is, okay? Because it's no secret that the state of Illinois has a severe budget crisis, okay? And so I went through the latest budget, and I'm trying to figure out just how much money the state is paying, you know, like premiums for its employees, you know, for the pensioners, even what we pay for Medicaid. I can't figure it out. I mean, there's $1 million here, $1 million buried there, all that. But I know for a fact Medicaid alone is 22% of our state budget. Okay? Imagine what we can do with an extra 22% in our coffers. Mm-hmm. You know? So, I mean, Springfield should be down, you know, let's go and push our federal, you know.
Absolutely. You're shoving more of the costs onto the federal government so the state picks up less. And so obviously there's going to be more money for the state to spend on other things.
Well, see, they can just keep printing money. We can't.
That's right.
I hadn't thought of that one, but that's well put. Peter Janko from McHenry County. All right, Larry, I want to come back to something you were saying. I was jotting notes when you went on that riff. And,
sorry.
No, that's fine.
He's passionate about
it.
it.
No, and like there's a part of you, I don't know if anyone has ever told you, it's like you have this inner Bernie. And Bernie's from Brooklyn, you're from Philly, so you're not even from the same town. But like when the way you punctuate things, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like been hanging out with Bernie a lot. Did you notice that? Like, whatever. Anyway, all right. But like when you do numbers, it really reminds me of Bernie. Somebody's phone is ringing.
Yeah, Clem came just to ring the phone during the show.
I can't take Clem anywhere. Oh God.
I didn't know there's an off switch there.
Yeah. All right, but one of the things we talk about a lot on this show, Larry, is the fact that I don't know what to call it, the centrist wing of the Democratic Party is getting ready. They're beginning to come face to face with the fact that Bernie Sanders could be the nominee, and there's a very good chance he's going to be the nominee, and that frightens them. And we're already seeing, you know, former President Barack Obama has been sort of suggesting that he's going to take a strong stand against Bernie Sanders if he feels it looks as though Bernie's going to win. He made a comment that was discussed in the last debate. You probably know about this, where he said we need a woman running the party. We need a woman and not an old man, which is kind of a...
Joe Biden sounds like an old man to me.
Yes, but then Biden at the debate said he wasn't talking about me. So, you know, what's your response? How is Bernie going to deal with a revolt from the center?
Well, so first of all, I think so I was the vice chair of this esoteric thing called the Unity Reform Commission of the Democratic Party. I've been on the DNC. I know that's a fault, but for 15 years. And, but totally committed to like what Peter's doing, change the party. You know, we're not throwing it out. We need to change it. And so, you know, the major thing that came out of that year and a half Unity Reform Commission was elected delegates should determine the nominee. Mm-hmm. So, we have 18 months of this campaign. 54 primaries, 3 caucuses, and at the end, and on the first ballot in Milwaukee, it's only the elected delegates. The people like me, 750 non-elected, strike me if I ever use the word super, but the non-elected delegates that are not super, they would come in on a second ballot, which hasn't been a second ballot since Stevenson beat Kefauver in 1952. I learned, you know, on this commission, but. So my opinion is that, you know, we're going to wake up in March 4th or March 17th here in Illinois, and you're going to see Bernie right at the head. I think Warren and Biden will also get a lot of elected delegates, but it's not going to be about polls at that point. So we might as well think about that now. It's going to be about elected delegates. And he's going to be, you know, I don't know that he's in front, but he's going to be way up there. And I think it's going to be clear to the progressive part of the party that believes we need Medicare for all, higher education, climate change in a real way, action on climate change, that says, hey, we can actually elect the president. as long as we have Warren and Bernie sticking together here, not apart. That A plus B equals 2,000 delegates, and we can win the nomination. And I don't think President Obama, and I was a huge Obama supporter, and actually know him a little bit, but in 8 I knew him well, 7 and 8. But I think he's wrong on that stuff. And again, I think that it's going to be about the delegates that get elected in 54 primaries and 3 caucuses. I think here in Illinois, Bernie will come out ahead at March 17th. And that's what this is about. We're contesting 57 states, and not only states, but it's every congressional district in every state. That's how that election of delegates works. And so that's what we're doing. And in the case of our revolution, we're just mobilizing our own members. That's more than enough to make a difference.
Yeah, in 2016, Bernie took McHenry County by 61 to 38. So I'm pretty confident that.
No, this is what Peter's saying, Larry, is so true. That in areas that are Trump areas,
right,
the Democrats are Bernie Democrats, and the centrists that I discuss this stuff with dismiss that, and I point that out. That in areas where Trump's strongest, the people who vote Democrat are Bernie supporters. And I'm saying, well, that leads me to think that maybe one way to get people in those areas to vote is to have somebody that speaks to them. And maybe, I don't know, they're closer in mindset to actual Trump voters. Maybe you get a few Trump voters to go for Bernie, go hard left, so to speak, as opposed to constantly doing what the Democrats have done.
I think you're totally
to the
right.
Middle.
Yeah.
And I just spent, it's no big deal, but I've been to Iowa a lot over the last 4 years, including a couple of weeks ago. And, working class people, black, brown, and white, I'm not talking about white people. I'm talking about people who work in the same factory, regardless of where they came from, overwhelmingly want to see a candidate who actually has fought these rotten-ass trade deals his entire life. And, Trump lied when he went up against Clinton and said in those key states, as you said, oh, I'm going to be for a whole new trade regime. He basically lied. I was at Carrier in Indianapolis, with the workers there, again, black, brown, and white. And Trump and Bernie was there, and we were, the biggest federal contractor, United Technologies, moving this plant to Mexico. And but Hillary Clinton, first of all, she didn't come there, and secondly, she was Secretary of State, which was the driving force of these trade deals. They're not trade deals; they were foreign policy deals. Substitute for foreign aid, they were rotten trade deals designed to keep countries in our orbit rather than somebody else's at the expense of America's working class people. And it was a horrible mistake that President Obama continued those deals in Korea, Colombia, and then the TPP. And Trump lied about what he would do and exaggerated it, obviously, but he came dead out against it. Bernie has a real record of fighting those deals, and that comes across, particularly in working class rural America, like where I was, Dubuque, Davenport, not working class, but, not the biggest cities like Chicago, where administrative jobs are replacing, to some extent, manufacturing jobs. You're totally right. In those counties, whether it's in Iowa or here in Illinois, Quad Cities, the other side of the river, that's where he does best, because people know this is what the guy's done his entire life. It's not something new that he learned to say, like Pete Buttigieg, who is like an empty glass. Fill the glass up with whatever will work, and that's it. With Bernie, the glass has been full for his entire life. That's why he is loved by working class people.
All right, now, Peter Janko can attest to what I'm about to say. Peter Janko ran for committeeman of McHenry County. He was a Bernie guy, and he was running against somebody who was supported by the party. He was victorious.
Yep.
And what happened soon thereafter, Peter Janko, you know as well as I do, the head of the Democratic Party in the state of Illinois, Michael Joseph Madigan, called Peter Janko up and tried to convince him to vote for Madigan. Janko, in my humble opinion, to his credit, cut a deal with Madigan, got Madigan to come on my radio show. Thank you, Peter Janko. Right. But in addition, even though he cut that deal, he did not vote for Madigan. So I'm leading up to this, Larry. The day that it looks as though Bernie could win, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
He's going to get a phone call from the equivalent of Michael Joseph Madigan, and they're going to go, Bernie, here's what we got to do. You got to shut up Larry Cohen and those lefties. Tell Clem Balanoff to be quiet and hide and cut yourself off from Janko. He's too nutty. And you got to move to the middle. This is what they're going to do, Larry
Absolutely.
Cohen. That's
Yeah,
how
that's
it
right.
works, okay?
That's right.
And they're going to get some union guys who may be, little more open-minded to the center to call them up as well. Come on, Bernie, you got to move. And they're going to try to get Bernie to be like John Kerry, Mike Dukakis, Walter Fritz Mondale, all these Democrats who ran by going to the right as opposed to moving left. So do you think Bernie can resist that temptation?
Yeah, because I think the issues that he talks about, my experience has been sticking to those issues, not a bunch of labels, right, left, right. Those issues work in rural America. Those issues work with inspiring working people, again, black, brown, and white, to show up. The biggest problem we have in this country is people not showing up, not voting. And the right wing has figured that out, whether it's in Wisconsin stripping 250,000 people because they moved, or, worse voter suppression in other states. And what we have to do is, voter inspiration. And again, in our revolution, that's a part of what this meeting is about tomorrow at 925 West Diversity Parkway, is to get our groups across the state fired up, not just about Bernie, but about Peter. I mean, we believe that change really is at the local level, that at the local level, and in this case, the state level, you can actually change our lives now. Illinois has an opening here to actually have better life for working people in Illinois, not just talk about it or debate it, but actually legislate it. And particularly at the local government level, that exists all over the country, whether it's Davenport, Iowa, or a small town in Maine. So I think that's really the idea, is to get people inspired that at least at the local level and transforming the party, we have to have viable Democratic Party, not a boss's party. And then all the way at the top, yes, we're going to show up. We're going to vote on March 14th here in Illinois for Bernie Sanders because we want real change. We want a happier life. And I believe that that kind of model of the issues, the candidates, the party building, and doing it by street-based organization, whether in towns or in cities like Chicago, can make a difference in this country.
Peter, do you share his confidence in Bernie's ability to withstand the pressure to move right?
Well, I mean, having kind of a parallel type experience, I can tell you one thing that'll happen is you get to negotiate. You know what I mean? Because there is a vested interest in working together. So in my particular case, I mean, you got the sign right behind you. We got Amtrak to Rockford. I mean, people have been fighting for that for 30 years. So when I got elected for state central committeeman, instead of just sitting on my butt, I started knocking on doors of the legislators and started to rile up the community, and we got to fight for this, and we get this, and we got it, So we can't always measure our successes in legislation. There's a lot of stuff that kind of happens just by talking to people and working together. And that's what I think is going to happen with Bernie. They'll sit down and they'll say, there's certain things we're not going to compromise on, but there's certain things we'll give you because ultimately, we're all Democrats, and we want to beat, the Republicans. We want to show that we stand for something, that we can get stuff done.
All right. Now, Larry, I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
And this gets into, I've been talking about the centrists in the Democratic Party and getting concerned about Bernie Sanders and then the tactics they'll employ. Let's say Bernie's the nominee. He's up against Donald John Trump. Trump sort of has been bragging. I can't wait. Well, he's usually bragging about how he's going to mop the floor with Biden. He's got this weird thing about Biden. But Bernie, he wrote, Bernie is crazy Bernie. Mm-hmm. So he dismisses crazy. And the Republicans, they whisper, we got pictures of Bernie. He's wandering around without a shirt on. He was in the Soviet Union, and he's an ally of Nicaragua and Sandinistas. We're going to kill Bernie. We crazy Bernie. So Trump yesterday at that rally where he in Ohio, I don't know if you heard this.
No.
Well, he was dismissed. Nancy Pelosi is someone who's operating who isn't operating with a full deck. He took a shot at Adam Schiff, saying, what did he call a pencil neck? And Bernie's just crazy Bernie. So how's Bernie going to deal with like this, playground attacks that Donald Trump, he trivializes people, he marginalizes people, he makes fun of them, he gives them nicknames, and then they get repeated. How's Bernie going to deal with that?
He's going to say, Trump, whatever he calls him, but I would call him Trump. Trump, you told us in the campaign you would end the wars. Instead, you're escalating the wars. And you got us tied not only against Iran, but in Yemen. Trump, you said you were going to cut pharmaceutical prices. They've continued to climb. You haven't cut them at all. Trump, you said you were going to change the trade policy. How have you changed the trade policy of this country? and on and on and on about that. All you've done, Trump, is increase the military budget by $135 billion a year. That you've done. And what have you done for regular working people? What can we point to that you've done? And you've lied time and time and time again. We're going to have the kind of America that working people should have. We're going to have health care for all. We're going to have higher education for all and cut student debt. And we're going to deal with the climate crisis. You're a disbeliever in it. Tell that to the people of Houston, where every storm, again, threatens their lives. Or the people of Australia. We actually have one world. And we're going to change those things. There's nothing crazy about any of that. You call me anything you want. We're going to be in the streets across this country, and we're going to win this election. And this country, you talked about taking it back. Working class people are going to take it back. We're ready to go.
Larry. Dude, you got me fired up over here.
All right, come tomorrow.
But standing on street
West
corners,
Diversey.
but standing on street corners with signs, that's just half the battle. The bigger battle comes knocking on people's doors, and getting out there and connecting with middle America.
And registering voters. Both of you guys know what happened in 2016. Turnout, it fell. And people always talk about Milwaukee. Larry and Peter, they talk about how there's the New York Times did the story where they went into a barbershop in a black neighborhood in Milwaukee. And that story sort of became a parable for the 2016 election. And where the people in the barbershop were saying they didn't vote, they were disillusioned. And voter turnout in these areas where Democrats need a high turnout fell. It wasn't just Milwaukee, guys. I got to tell you,
Detroit,
Chicago. People don't talk about Chicago because Illinois is considered Democratic country. I'm looking at my three Chicago experts who are coming on after this, and all of them know the vote in 2016 fell in the city of Chicago, in the black wards of Chicago, the 6th ward to 8th ward. It fell from 2012, and that to me is just. Larry sends a message that's indicative of what happened in Detroit, Milwaukee, your hometown, Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was huge.
Big. So Bernie Sanders can change that, in your humble opinion?
No, not by himself. I mean, number one, I think, who else is on that ticket with him? And secondly, surrogates who are black and brown and immigrants saying this is the key election of our life. People always say that, but we have to beat the monster president we have. As Bernie calls him, he's the worst president ever. And we need to connect that to people's everyday lives. But also, and this is where Bernie comes in and the people, this campaign, is give people hope that life can be different, that their kids can really go to college without student debt, that they can have decent health care if they have a job, not just people on Medicaid, but working people. And the hope that their kids don't have to go to war for no good reason and spend trillions of dollars in the process. And I think it's a combination of those things. One, sort of who are we and what do we look like, but what do we stand for? And do we stand for a life that will dramatically make a difference for our kids? I think if we do that and we're clear about that, it's not just against Trump. We're fighting for the America we can be and the America that working people want. I think then we get at least some of that turnout back. And, my favorite, I hate it, but Wayne County, Michigan, Detroit, drop of 50,000 in turnout. And Trump carried Michigan by 10,000. And then there's the pivot counties where a lot of our revolution groups are, like where Peter is, which flipped from Obama, yours may not have, but flipped from Obama to Trump. So those river counties in Iowa.
McHenry County went to Trump in the end.
In the end, it went for Trump. All right, so before I let you guys go, I know you're busy. Give one more time the information about what's going on tomorrow in the morning here in the city of Chicago. Go ahead.
Sure. The statewide Our Revolution groups are meeting at 925 West Diversey Parkway, 10:30 a.m. Everybody's welcome. We're talking about our strategy, which is not just Bernie. It's primarily how do we win in 2020 at every level, local government, state government, and how is that connected up to the core issues that really motivate us to do this work as volunteers.
And it depends on all you listeners out there to make this work.
Very good. That's Peter Janko. And people are saying, where's the McHenry County crew that Peter Janko brings in? That's the next visit. We're going to bring in the McHenry County crew. That was a very popular segment.
Well, hell, he brought a wrecking crew in today, man. You were on fire, Larry.
No, Larry Cohen. We're going to definitely bring Larry Cohen back to the show. He's the pride and joy of Philadelphia. My guess he went to Overbrook High.
No, that's West Philly.
Oh, okay. What high school did you go to?
Cheltenham High School.
Of course I knew that. That's why you
correct.
told me that. All right, thank you very much, Larry Cohen. Thank you very much, Peter, Janko. And we have, Central's fancy. Jacob Kaplan is on deck with Danny Pogorzelski. We'll bring him on when we return.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
Madam Secretary, you talk a lot about the mothers of your friends, where you went to their houses and you knew that they were going to be kind and generous and supportive of you. So that theme of women being present and how they make a difference, talk a little bit about that and how that, again, animated some of the selections that you made of people in the book.
That's a great question, Mayor, because I wanted to include women who I could distinctly remember the impact that they had on me. And, you know, obviously historical figures. I never knew Helen Keller or Anne Frank or Maria Tolchief or Amelia Earhart, but as a little girl, they made a big impression on me.
Ben, stop talking about hipsters and bros. We're back. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
I'm still fired up about Larry Cohen, man. That dude brings the A game.
Larry. Dude, that was awesome.
Yeah, Larry. I mean, it was like having Bernie in the studio. I mean, there was the way he hit certain notes. Jacob Kaplan just reminded me of
very much like Bernie.
Yeah,
totally.
And when they were, he was talking about how Bernie and he had a conversation in 2015. Then he went off and he started the numbers. Dennis has this gag he does where he imitates. Have you guys ever heard Dennis's imitation of Bernie?
I don't think so.
No.
$27.
Yeah, there you go. And when Larry Cohen was going on about that, you have to cut healthcare by 12%. It's like Bernie's in the studio.
Take the 10% of the other 10%, and that gives you 10%.
You know, if you're talking about imitations, though, and especially if you bring up the name Larry, the person I thought of is Larry David, who turned out to be thanks to Henry Louis Gates. If you Related to remember, Bernie. That's right, his cousin, right?
Wait, time out. Hold it. You said that so fast. You tell me Larry David, David is related to who?
Bernie Sanders.
I don't believe that.
You cannot believe me, but please believe Henry Louis Gates, who actually
Oh,
goes on
he
TV.
did the
DNA test.
DNA test.
Now, if you're
How
going to
did
believe
I
it,
not know that?
I don't know. Apparently you didn't, though.
I did not know that. Take apparently out of the sentence.
they're called the know-it-alls for a reason. Ben.
Political know-it-alls. Illinois political know-it-alls are in the studio. Jacob Kaplan, Danny Pogorzelski. Yes, sir.
Before we get into with the interview here, we want to remind everybody to check out our Benny J bonus interviews this weekend. We got 2 damn good interviews for you to download. Our first is with Ben's good friend, Dan Mihalopoulos of WBEZ. Ben, tell everybody what to expect when they
We take
download
the
that.
deep dive on the Michael McLean investigation, and that has to do, we've been talking about that a lot today. Michael McLean is a former aide, ally, confidant, state representative, former aide, ally, confidant of Michael Joseph Madigan, and former state representative. And he wrote this very bizarre email that Dave McKinney and WBZ uncovered, where he was praising somebody for like covering up a rape, and it's just exploded. Like, what rape? And why would you be praising somebody for covering up a rape or being quiet about a rape? Anyway, Danny Mihalopoulos is investigative reporter for WBZ. He and McKinney confronted McLean. He was dining at Chicago Cut, and he was the steakhouse here in the city of Chicago, and went right over there.
Bulldog.
I know, Bulldog investigative reporters. So anyway, we talk about corruption in the state of Illinois, and then our next interview, Mark Brown. We haven't done that yet.
Mark Brown, a gentleman I see in the Sun-Times bathroom on occasion. He's going to be coming in and
we're talking
doing a
politics,
bonus.
just general politics.
So that's awesome. Check that out. Live stream chat. You guys are on fire today. What are you, Larry Cohen over here? My goodness, you guys are killing it. Oh, and also, before we continue, our good friend Dan Pogorzelski is a licensed, ordained minister.
Got to get this over
and
with.
every time he comes in, he always nudges me. Hey, real quick, you give me a plug? I got you, dude. I got you. So if you're getting married, listen up. If you're looking to tie the knot with your loved one, there is one man and one man only who can do the job. Dan Pogorzelski, licensed, ordained minister. So, if you're looking to tie the knot, there's only one question that you need to ask. Danny P., will you marry me? Dan Pogorzelski, licensed, ordained minister. You're welcome, buddy.
Yeah. Young Daniel was not at the last show, right, Jacob? Wasn't he doing a wedding somewhere in like Idaho, or wasn't that right? Do I have that right?
I did a show where I wasn't able to come on because I was in Idaho, but actually the last time I got to visit a former intern of mine when I worked for now State Senator Martwick, who now he's an exchange student. He was a lobbyist in Paris.
Oh, you went to France?
Yes, I was.
Man, it's like the
was
Patty
fun.
Duke show. You're the sister who goes all around the world.
Hang tight, millennials.
I know, Patty Duke. Janko, who's hanging around, is the only one around who knows the Patty Duke show. Meet Patty, who's been most everywhere from Zanzibar. Anyway, all right, enough of that.
If you could go to Paris, wouldn't you?
Yes, if I could, I would. But as far as
he has a show to do,
I have a show to do. The only places I go these days are Chicago, Evanston, and Skokie. It's pretty much. I see movies in Skokie and Evanston, and
Well,
I
you
live in
should
Chicago.
travel around the state more. I really liked it when we actually met Peter, thanks to coming out to DeKalb.
Yes,
That was
we
lot
did
of
a
fun.
remote in DeKalb, and I love those remotes. We got to get those going again. Although we are going to be doing some remotes, I should say. Yeah, allowed to. We're going to do one February 11th in Chicago. And that'll be the night of the New Hampshire primary. So we're going to be doing a remote from a bar in Clark Street. I wish I knew the name of the bar, but just off the top of my head, I don't have it. So we will be doing some remotes, and we have one in March that we'll be doing on the day of the Illinois primary. So, we'll be getting out on the road doing more remotes. All right, now let's
You
get
guys
down
going to go to LaSalle County, where Danny Brzezowski's running against Adam Kinzinger?
She will be a guest on the show next week, thanks to you, young Dan, for helping broker that deal. All right, let's get down to business. And this is what I really want to talk to you guys about, the political know-it-alls. I know absolutely everything about politics, the geeky stuff included. Jacob, people have been asking me about the delegate selection process in the state of Illinois. It's very confusing. We just had Larry Cohen on the show with Peter Janko, big-time Bernie supporters. Bernie has a whole slate of delegates. Some of the presidential candidates don't have slates. Pete Buttigieg doesn't have a slate. So explain.
Well, he has a partial slate.
Explain all this. Okay.
So Illinois has a weird system where there are some delegates that run in the primary, and so they have to file petitions just like any other candidate. So there's 101 delegates that are selected by during the primary in March that are pledged to various candidates. Then after the primary, there are some delegates that are automatically appointed because they're elected officials or party officials. There are also some other delegates that can be appointed. It's kind of a complex process after the primary, but the bottom line is...
No, those are the so-called super delegates, correct?
Except that's not the name for them.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what Larry Cohen was saying. What did he say? Elected? What did he call them? Not elected delegates.
Elected leader and elected official. Leader or party leader and elected official delegates.
Gotcha. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but at the end, the bottom line is this. It's one of the things that's used to determine the sort of strength that candidates have is in terms of their delegate recruitment in Illinois. So when you see a candidate like Bernie who was able to fill all the delegate spots, Elizabeth Warren did too. Joe Biden filled, I think, all but 1 or 2 spots. And, you have to find people in every single congressional district that are willing to run and get the signatures and all that. So they did a good job of that. But then you have some candidates like the Mike Bloomberg that said they don't even want to participate in the delegate process, so they didn't decide to recruit any, which is fine. You don't have to recruit any, and if you still become get enough votes in the primary, those delegates can be appointed to you after the primary by the state party. But the interesting thing is that Pete Buttigieg, whose campaign is based here in Illinois and had a big delegate recruitment process, didn't file delegates in a lot of congressional districts, particularly the minority districts, a couple of the African American districts, and in the 4th congressional district, which of course is the only Latino district in Illinois, he only has 1 delegate when he could have filed many more. So that was kind of a national story that he doesn't seem to have the sort of minority support that you would expect a major candidate to have in Illinois.
Okay, so before we get into the list of who are some of the delegates that are running, you talk about delegates after the fact. Delegates can be appointed by the state party. Do they have to? Is that coordinated with the candidates?
Yes.
Go ahead,
most of them are. Some of them are automatic, elected official and party official delegates. Like if you're a DNC member, you automatically are a delegate. But most of them are appointed in accordance with the campaigns. Just like if you're running for delegate, if you had decided to run for delegate, you have to get the blessing of the campaign. They have to decide that you're somebody they want to run. But the thing is that, so the primary happens, and the interesting thing is the formula. So if a candidate doesn't get 15% of the vote in any particular congressional district, they don't get any delegates in that district. So there's a certain threshold you have to meet to even, become a delegate. Even if you run and win, you won't necessarily be a delegate for Mayor Pete or Elizabeth Warren unless your particular candidate that you're pledged to gets enough votes in that district.
I see. Congressional district by congressional district. So it's a mini electoral college. So somebody could get 90%, I'm just making this up, 90% of the vote in the 4th congressional, just saying that because you mentioned it, but not 0% in the 1st congressional district. And so no delegates in the 1st, and there's a threshold that there's no limit that you get in the 4th, so doesn't really do you any good.
Right. So if you got 90% in the 4th congressional district, you're going to get all the delegates that ran under your being pledged to you. Every district gets like 4 or 5. It depends on the district delegates. And there's because we're the Democratic Party and we believe in diversity. There are various diversity requirements. So there, in terms of the delegates from Illinois, there need to be a certain number of African Americans, Latinos, LGBT, disabled. So that formula also comes into play after the election, and you still may be bumped if you're not a minority or if you're not in one of those groups.
I see. Is there evidence from these the slates of these delegates that the candidates have taken seriously these requirements or goals to have minority representation?
I'm looking at the list of some of the delegates for the major candidates, and Joe Biden has definitely done a good job of recruiting a lot of minority and women candidates. Elizabeth Warren has too. Bernie has as well, but it just comes back to Mayor Pete not really having very much diversity in his delegate slate, and Amy Klobuchar only filed a few delegates, which is interesting as well. It's like, to me, if I were running a delegate operation in Illinois, it's all or nothing. I'm either going to go all in and get everybody, enough for every single district, or nobody. Why would you just file a few?
Well, why would you? I don't understand it at all.
I don't know. You'd have to ask those campaigns.
Yeah. All right. So give me some of the names here, and maybe we can run through them, and Danny can jump in as well. Talk about the significance of it. Let's start with Joe Biden. Who are some of Joe Biden? I don't have the list in front of me, so you just read it off.
So he's got City Treasurer Melissa Conyers-Ervin. He's got Alderman Michelle Harris, Roderick Sawyer, Brendan Riley. He's got Representative Marty Moylan up there in Des Plaines. He's got former Governor Pat Quinn. He's got Alderman Patrick Daley Thompson, Water Reclamation District Commissioner Mariana Sparopoulos, former U.S. Senate candidate Andy Zopp. So, pretty diverse group of people there.
He has a Daley. Patrick Daley Thompson in the 11th Ward is, of course, former Mayor Daley's nephew. So that's not bad. In the old days, that would be a sign, would it not, that the Democratic Party is lined up behind Joe Biden, but things have changed.
In the old Daley days, yes.
In the old Daley days.
For sure, you definitely have where you see a lot of the establishment has gone behind Biden, right? And so it'll be interesting as Biden's fortunes, as the campaign has gone on, have gotten worse.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see if by the time that St. Patty's Day and the primary rolls around, if Biden isn't doing too hot, what's going to happen with these folks?
Well, this is
going to be trying to figure out another way to get to the convention.
I got to tell you guys, we have a lot of different people parading through this studio. Dennis knows what I'm about to say. It's really hard to find someone to defend Joe Biden. I'm the defender of Joe Biden on this show. I get ripped by our listeners whenever I do that.
Hey, didn't you have Dave Feller on here? Didn't he defend Joe Biden?
Yeah, but it was weak. It was weak. It's, the first incoming, and Dave Feller was like,
I mean, 4 or 5 people already called you a douchebag on the live stream chat when you mentioned it. So.
Just to say anything nice about Joe Biden. The left does not like Joe Biden, okay? Dave Feller came in. I brought him in. I go, he'd say something nice about him. Even he was waffling. And yet, the elected officials lined up. You had an alderman that you named, 2 aldermen, I want to say.
Yeah.
Right? 3 aldermen, right?
Aldermen,
Did you say Pat Dowell was on that list?
Pat Dowell, no, but Chris Talaferro, I don't think I mentioned him as another one. So I think there's at least 5 or 6 on this list that I'm looking at here. So, yeah.
So what's going on here? Is it just that Joe Biden has, to quote a line from Richard Nixon, the silent majority of voters? Or is it elected officials just not in touch with the voters? What do you think?
Don't make no waves, don't back no losers, right? That's the old maximum, and I'm sure that when folks were looking at who they wanted to be a delegate for in September, October, Biden was looking like a hot commodity before the debates really had him sputter.
And I think that's part of it, but also you look at this list and there's a lot of African Americans, and I think the polling shows Biden still does really well among African American voters, particularly older African American voters. So I think that must play into it as well. I mean, I don't really see on this list, at least, this isn't everybody, but these are the ones that are also elected officials or notable names. I don't see any, I don't think I see any Latinos. So it's a lot of African Americans and a lot of kind of, as you would say, establishment folks. Yeah.
Now you mentioned Mayor Pete. Didn't talk about the delegates that he has.
So he definitely has a lot of the LGBT elected officials like Deborah Shore, like Kevin Morrison, like Lamont Robinson, state representative. He also has Representative Stephanie Kifowit from the west suburbs, Aurora. He has Marty Castro, who's a businessman, who's a big supporter of Susana Mendoza. Former city treasurer candidate Peter Grippi is a delegate for Pete, is the delegate in the 4th Congressional District. Former ambassador to Canada, David Jacobson.
Yoni Pizer,
who's running for state representative in the Sarah Feigenholtz seat.
According to Ben, podcast producer Dennis loves Mayor Pete.
There you go. Is that true?
No.
Okay.
This guy is ride and die with Bernie. Now it's all serious. I tease him because he's so not for Pete that I love to sing. And everybody knows his favorite kid. But that is a joke, guys, inside joke. This, Dennis represents what I'm talking about when we just had that conversation. He comes from Alton, Illinois, which there's a lot of Trump supporters in Alton, Illinois.
Yeah.
And the Democrats in Alton, Illinois of the world tend to go with Bernie, and this is just a fact.
But it's not just him. So take a look when you're looking at Bernie Sanders. Tucker Carlson is not exactly someone that we usually quote in a radio show like this. But Tucker Carlson on C-SPAN actually had a segment where he himself is talking about a person who is a hardcore Second Amendment guy, a guy that's a conservative businessman. And when asked, well, who are you going to vote for? I don't know, Trump or Bernie? And I think that encapsulates it where, Trump himself had actually taken some of the language that Bernie had originally had about a rigged system and then co-opted it in the general election. And for a lot of folks who remember the Democratic Party being for unions, being for redistribution of wealth, for those folks, Bernie really encapsulates something. And I think that when people try to write that off, it's to their detriment.
I'm with you 100% on that one. And one thing that really I find disconcerting is the rhetoric that comes from the center of the party. And I always point this out, and this is me speaking. This is not Dan or Jacob. I'm on the left, but year after year, I dutifully vote Democrat. I'm not particularly proud of that, but that's just the reality. And I voted for centrist Democrats because I figured, well, the Supreme Court is at stake. National Labor Relations Board appointees are at stake. EPA policies are at stake. So even though there are economic issues, I think they've wimped out and left us stranded. People on the left, they've really ignored our concerns. These are very important appointees that I cannot just dismiss. So I've always voted Mondale, Dukakis, Clinton, Gore, John Kerry, Obama, centrist. I've always voted centrist. I'm looking at the centrists. Are you going to do this? If Bernie's the nominee, Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, John Podesta. I'm going on and on with the centrists, the Democratic Party. Are you going to say, hey, hold your nose and vote Bernie? Are you going to be true blue to the Democrat? You know what I'm saying? Or are you going to start playing these games and dropping out and not speaking out and saying, I don't know who I'm going to vote for? I think this is a serious issue that the Democrats are facing.
I will say, at least here in Cook County, and the people I talk to that aren't particularly Bernie fans, they do all say they would vote for him and support him happily against Trump. So I don't know.
At least in Cook County. Yeah. Well, that's nice of them.
We will.
One of the things that I wanted to segue, so I've been itching to talk about this for a while. I actually sent you guys a text about this when this first came up, of why Bernie Sanders really strikes a chord with working class folks, and getting back to the power that he has, not only with working class folks, but to an earlier incarnation of the Democratic Party. So today we had Boeing once again in the headlines. It was in the headlines because there were emails where the corporate heads themselves, or corporate folks, were saying like, oh man, the people who designed it were monkeys and et cetera. I haven't heard any of the presidential candidates talk about what bank analysts had said, which is that many of the troubles that Boeing is now going through go back to the same culture that was trying to break the unions inside Boeing. You have where you have not just highly qualified folks, but the move to South Carolina. Is it South Carolina? Yeah. The move to South Carolina. This was all designed as part of this corporate cost-cutting structure, trying to cut at all costs, break the union, even though you're talking about a profession which, dealing with people's safety, needs highly, highly skilled workers. And this is a bank analyst that said this, and I read this in Bloomberg. Not a single person brought this up. And why do people like Bernie? Because Bernie Sanders is the candidate that I guarantee you, if you were to read that, he'd be all at every station talking about, this is sick. We need to make sure that we stand strong for unions, for union labor, et cetera. And that, I think, really highlights that point.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, so Bernie's unafraid to take these strong stands, and we'll be really curious. I'll be watching that one to see if the centrists, fall in line with Bernie and say, well, we disagree with him and this, that, the other thing, but we think he's far better than Trump, or we think he's a great guy. And remember, Bernie did campaign for Hillary. This is another little myth that people put out, that Bernie did not support Hillary, but Bernie campaigned in Iowa and other swing states for Hillary Clinton in 2016.
I'd like to quote Mr. Ben Joravsky, who, when we were talking about with the political know-it-alls here, about how Arnie Duncan was taking the side of management. Yeah. Remember that?
Sounds like something I did say. I don't remember the exact quote.
So yeah, we were talking about, and it highlighted, the Democratic Party, we weren't supposed to be on the side of management. We were supposed to be on the side of labor. And this goes back to why people like Bernie, because he's someone who unequivocally is not on the side of management. He's on the side of the working man.
He's definitely on the side of labor, that is for sure. Before I let this delegate thing go, what are some of the other, like Klobuchar, you mentioned Klobuchar. Where are her delegates?
The only name I recognize, well, political consultant Nick
Daggers,
businesswoman Christy Hefner, and state rep Tara Costa Howard are the only three
And
notable
they're,
names.
what
on
district?
here.
What district is that?
That I'm not even sure.
So they don't. So that
Yeah.
list doesn't break it down by districts.
No,
I gotcha.
This
Christy
was just
Hefner, does she still live in the North Shore?
I don't know. Christy Hefner, former head of Playboy. What about Cory Booker? Does Cory Booker have any delegates?
didn't file any delegates. No.
Well,
the only other candidate who filed a full slate was Elizabeth Warren. And Bernie Sanders. Those are the two. So Elizabeth Warren.
Who are some of Elizabeth Warren's delegates?
So she has State Senator Omar Aquino, Christina Castro, Daniel Biss, former senator, Melinda Bush, Representative Kelly Cassidy.
My boss,
Mike Frerichs,
State
State Treasurer. Representative Will Gazzardi, Zach Kautsky with United Food and Commercial Workers, Assessor Fritz Kagi, Alderman Matt Martin. So a pretty diverse set of people supporting Warren.
Is Brandon? Did you say Brandon Johnson's on there?
He's not listed here, but he's definitely a delegate. So,
well, I can tell you this. What was a shameless plug here? The first Tuesday of the month of February at the Hideout, we're having a debate. Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa will be representing Bernie, and Commissioner Brandon Johnson will be representing Elizabeth Warren. And I am looking forward to this debate. So much trash talk going on. Brandon Johnson, Carlos, you should have heard what Brandon said about you. I'm just saying.
I'm thinking about weighing in for Mayor Pete.
What's that?
I said I'm thinking about weighing in for Mayor Pete. I'm going back.
Dennis will be there for Mayor Pete. And
you should get Fowler there for Biden. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Biden's in my top 5. All right. I know you guys. I wonder. Curious if you have. You're not allowed to say your top 5 because Jacob's official with the Cook County Party. Got to be neutral in this thing. But my top 5. I can see if I could do this off the top of my head anymore. Number 1, Bernie. He's been number 1 for a while. Number 2, Elizabeth Warren. She's been number 2 for a while. I like her a lot. But I do what Cohen said was so true. Larry Cohen, Bernie's been doing this forever, and I really appreciate that. Dang, I forgot. Oh, 3. Andrew Yang is earned.
There you go.
I like some of the stuff Andrew Yang says about the automated workplace, and I think he's raising ideas. He's doing a good job of raising ideas that aren't ordinarily addressed by the Democrats. And who's my Amy Klobuchar, like her wisecracks.
Oh man,
and
as a former political
He's not a
staffer,
fan.
yes, I have a grudge against Amy Klobuchar for treating her staffers like that. Any person.
She's rude and mean and nasty to them.
Yes, I understand, and I understand. Folks are like, well, but she'll be so great at taking it to Trump. Just viscerally, someone who treats their staff like that, it's hard for me to support someone like that.
And 5th, it's Joe Biden. Now, let me address what you just said. There's a big difference, and I'm going to agree with you, actually, Danny. There's a big difference between being mean and nasty and tough to people who are your subordinates and being mean and nasty and tough with someone who is standing on stage with your opponent. It's two different things. One is being a bully, and the other is standing up for what you believe in. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I that turned me off as well, those reports about Amy Klobuchar being nasty to the people who work for her. So maybe I'll flip Biden, put him forth now. It's like...
Your listeners won't like that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, God damn Biden, man.
Oh, the live stream chat's going crazy.
Liked Ben Joravsky's Facebook page every time you say it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Listen, Joe Biden's been around a long time, and I will say this. He was the guy who did a very good job in the 2008 campaign for Barack Obama. He ran. He was the wingman, all right?
Yeah.
And he sort of convinced white people throughout the country, hey, he's not bad. I'm for him. So there, I'm giving the best spin I can for Joe Biden, all right? The Facebook, the internet.
Yep, exploded.
All right.
Someone's going to create a meme of Ben Joravsky riding with Biden.
We're talking to the political know-it-alls, Jacob Kaplan and Dan Pogorzelski. Let's talk a little bit about ballot challenges. Let's take a little dive on that one. And, of course, we have this conversation every election season with Jacob and Dan. You can't just say in Illinois that you're running for office. You have to gather signatures to nominating petitions. You have to submit those to the appropriate electoral bodies. And then you have to sustain a challenge, if it comes to that, from your opponent who says you haven't collected enough valid legal signatures. It's a game that goes on every election year in Cook County in the city of Chicago. There's a lot of lawyers I know, some dear friends of mine, who make a nice living doing this, either defending or attacking candidates who...
Anyone you were surprised on that got kicked off?
Kicked off yet? Well, I don't know if anybody that has been kicked off. Wait, I'm trying to think.
Oh, come on.
There's one big one.
Yeah, a very big one.
Oh, yes, I do know this. God, all the marijuana.
Alderman.
She's also an alderman.
Yes.
Yeah. On the south side.
On the south side, Carrie
A lot
Austin.
of heat. Yeah, that's right.
Carrie Austin running for committeeman had to withdraw because she
was running for committeeman.
Yes, running for re-election. And but I personally have a libertarian viewpoint on this. Jacob and I have argued this.
Listen. Calm your horses there, Mr. Hayek, right?
I'm just saying, you know.
I don't want to be, this is the last place I want to be talking about the road to serfdom, you know?
That's very good. Mr. Hayek, I just say, let them all run. Let it be 30 people on the list. Jacob Kaplan and I have debated this one many times. We're just going to agree to disagree. We're not going to go back to this debate.
Rehash that.
We don't need to rehash this one. So just tell me some of the interesting challenges that are going down.
Well, so here at the Democratic Party, a couple of our candidates were challenged: Kim Foxx, state's attorney, and Mike Kebenarji, clerk of the court. And I will say that it's different. Certainly I've been involved in many challenges over the years, but one of the things that's happened recently, and that is, I think we probably agree on, is just the frivolous nature of a lot of challenges, where people can hold up, you can hold up your opponent, make them spend a lot of money in legal fees because you allege that they don't have enough signatures, but they end up well over the limit. So we're getting treated to that at the party because Bob Fioretti, former second ward alderman and perennial candidate, decided to challenge Kim Foxx, and Jacob Meister, who's running for clerk of the circuit court, decided to challenge Mike Kebenarji. The minimum number of signatures you needed to be on the ballot in these races are about 7,200, and both of them are going to have well over 10,000 valid signatures, so over 3,000 over the minimum. So that was a frivolous challenge that was thrown at us, and we're surviving it just fine. But it is an example of how I think there needs to be some sort of change in the law to not allow these sort of just frivolous, I call them shotgun challenges, where I'll just allege that everything's wrong, and then it takes weeks of taxpayer dollars and legal fees to survive these challenges.
I would, if I just have to add, Jacob Kaplan is like stealing my life. That's
there you
stuff
go.
I've been saying for freaking years. And I thought, Susanna Mendoza, I thought that was a frivolous challenge for her in the mayoral race. The one.
But Dorothy Brown got kicked off. That wasn't frivolous.
Well, it ended up not being frivolous, and because she got kicked off. You're right.
I mean, sometimes they're close. They're on the line, and people end up on by a few signatures or off by a few signatures. But if you're alleging that every single signature out of 20,000 is bad, I mean, come on.
Well, that's why my friend Ricky Hendon. He's really good at this game. Former state senator Ricky
Hollywood.
Hendon. And he has led the challenge to many a candidate, and he just does it. What you do is you go after the people who get the signatures. So if young Daniel gathers signatures and I could prove that he doesn't live at the address he says he lives on the document, like let's say he puts the wrong number in, this is so trivial this is.
But why would you lie? This is a legal document. If someone's lying on these documents they're putting in, what does that say about their integrity? I'm being serious here. If somebody makes up their address, right, and they won't put their real address on this legal document, how can you trust them?
All right, can I just say this? You said you didn't want to relitigate the issue.
We are.
But here we are. Because in my humble opinion, you can't have it two ways. You can't on one hand say, well, this is absolutely important and...
Isn't it you can't have it two ways with being honest?
No, the issue is you can't have it two ways by claiming something as a great principle that you're abiding by. You can't say we have this great principle that you absolutely positively have to have every dot of every I dotted, every T crossed, and if
I'm
you
not
don't
saying
do that...
everyone. I'm saying in the case of having the correct address, if somebody lies and they notarize this document and they're like, hey, I don't actually live there. I put a fake address because I didn't want you to know who I am.
Time out. There's a lie and there's a mistake. Now, in the case, one of my favorite cases, the case of the Green Party candidate Jacob Farber. This goes way back, Jason Farber. This goes back to before you guys were even involved in politics. You were still in high school. I don't know where you were, and it was Harry Osterman was running for re-election as state rep from the north side of Chicago, and a Green Party guy named Farber ran against him. And immediately, the Democratic Party, in its infinite non-wisdom, decided to send Michael Casper, who's the biggest election law bulldog in the world, after Farbin. They kick him off the ballot for some frivolous, made-up stuff. I would have argued to the Democrats, why are you doing this? Why are you turning off Green Party voters by going after... Let him engage him in debate. At the very least, show that you are concerned about everything he's... No, that's not my beloved Democrats. They're going to send the bulldog after this kid,
I agree with you on that.
All right?
I agree with you on that one. I would have done that.
They had Farbin on the ropes.
Yeah.
Farbin reading this kid. He didn't have a lawyer. You know, he didn't have Peter Janko representing him. He didn't have Jacob Kaplan in there. He figured out his own that the challenger had the wrong address on the challenge to his petitions. He flipped it around. Then he counterattacked Casper, who then all of a sudden found him in the position, and this is where I'm getting at. Oh, come on. That was just a mistake. He put the wrong address down. I mean, it's a frivolous. I'm like, isn't that interesting? When old boy Farbin makes the mistakes, oh my God, the integrity of the system has been violated. You know, you misstated truth and honor.
He's the lawyer, though. I mean, what do you expect?
All right, there we go. You're acting like a lawyer right now.
I'm not. So,
I'm just saying, when the other guy makes a mistake, it's like the world's greatest crime. When you make a mistake, it's, that's why we have erasers at the end of pencils.
If you had a lawyer, wouldn't you want him to act in that way?
What? Want my lawyer to lie and cheat and deceive, to take
that.
a violation of the, to take a look? We said we weren't going to relitigate, and here we are.
Speaking, but you know what I am curious about is in the first ward, because you have where there might be no one that's on the ballot for committeeman. And I was curious, Jacob, what's the status?
Yes, how does that work?
Not sure. It's still being decided. But so in the first ward, it's an open seat. Proco Joe Moreno is no longer the alderman. So the new alderman, Daniel Espada, is running. Jay Ramirez, who's from Proco Joe's organization, is running, and Lauren Young is running. Lauren Young was already kicked off the ballot, so she's out. Lauren challenged the other two. Jay Ramirez, we're hearing, is probably going to be off, though that hasn't been decided yet. And Daniel Espada apparently is going to be on by one signature, though literally.
If he's only on one, is that final, or can you still challenge?
It can be appealed. Yeah, it can always be appealed. So who knows? I mean, so there is a potential there where there'd be nobody on the ballot for committeeman, which has happened in the past, and people run as a write-in.
Yeah.
So
now I'm going to argue like his lawyer, Dan Pogorzelski. I'm going to now be you, Dan. And I'm going to say...
I love your Polish pronunciation.
Yeah, I probably butchered it. All right. So how many... do you need valid signatures? Do you need to be on the ballot to run for first ward committeeman? Do you know?
I don't know the exact number, but I would imagine in that ward it's probably around 500 or 600.
Well, to quote Dan, if you can't get 500 signatures, maybe you shouldn't be.
Are you saying there's like a hipster work ethic in the first ward? Has it permeated that far into the first ward where it's just like, I'd like to get signatures.
Wait, is that your hipster hat? Wait, time out. Is that your hipster imitation?
It is now.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm just imagining how many of the folks do the thing that I've hated the most, that I've berated people. I need to do more research. You know, where like I don't know when that became the standard way to say no. When it's like, hey, I'm trying to collect signatures for a Democrat. And so I was like, I don't know about them. I got to figure that out.
Well, here's how I do it. You guys would hate to come up to me. When everybody comes up to me with a signature, I give them trivia questions. I said, all right, I will sign that petition of yours if you can tell me, and then I'll ask him questions about his own candidate. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, they don't know because they're just doing it for money.
Or they just make it up.
Yeah. They're like, oh, that would be, because I know the answer. Yeah. Oh, that would be wrong. What high school did your candidate go to?
Were you channeling Dennis there? That totally sounded straight out of Dennis's.
I'm half the time I channel Dennis. By the way, everything I said when I was being Dan Pogorzelski, I just wanted to let you know I disagreed with absolutely everything I was saying while I was saying it. I'm a libertarian about this.
Whoa, let's not use the L word here, okay?
So you think everybody should just pay a fee to be on the ballot?
Yes, and then the counter ballot. Oh, you're going to be like California.
Pay
I go, what's the matter with California? Yeah. They had reefer before we did. What was that?
Pay a fee. I mean, that's not very progressive.
Yeah, well, so I mean, you know, I'm not saying a large $30.
Trying to make it. This is the
$30 and you're on the ballot.
Mike Bloomberg.
Yeah, $30. Yeah, $30 ought to do it. And then you know what other people go, well, Ben, what's going to happen? This is all these wheelers and dealers in Cook County. So like some committee boss will pay. Let's say they want Jacob Kaplan to run to siphon votes away from.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, there's all these allegations that the speaker puts candidates in that are similar. You know, if there's a Latino in the race, you put another Latino in to split the vote. Wouldn't this make it way easier to do that?
Yes.
Yeah. So how's that better?
Well, I don't know. What I'm saying is this gets to what what Dan's saying. We need a sophisticated electorate that knows what's going on. Because I never bought the lawsuit. I don't think we've ever had this conversation. There was a federal lawsuit filed against the Madigan machine in the 30th district. Is that the state representative district?
No,
22nd.
22nd. Are you sure it's the 22nd? Why am I? This guy.
They know it all, man.
Yeah. Okay. By Jason Gonzalez, alleging that his constitutional rights were violated when Michael Madigan's operation put in another candidate with a Hispanic name. I never bought that lawsuit. I'm like, well, so what?
What's wrong with that?
Yeah,
if somebody agrees to run, do you have to analyze the reasons for their run? And if they're not pure, you can kick them off and file a federal lawsuit. I don't think that seems like free speech territory.
I just never bought that, so anyway, I think that's the libertarian in me again.
So do more people unlike your page when you mention Michael J. Madigan or Joe Biden?
Good question.
Michael, that is an excellent question. Who's more unpopular with our listeners, Joe Biden or Michael Madigan?
Oh, absolutely, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, say what you will about Michael Madigan. Here's the case for Michael Madigan.
He stood up to honor?
He stood up to honor, and he defended unions.
The unions, exactly.
He defended unions, and it was...
can you imagine?
And by the way, my centrist friends in the Democratic Party were more than willing, it looked like, to sell out the unions in that fight with. Well, you take a look at John Cullerton in the Senate versus Michael Madigan in the House. Who took the harder stand on behalf of unions? I'm just putting it out there.
Without a doubt.
Madigan, without a doubt. So, but my centrist friends, they love Cullerton, but they don't like Madigan. So figure that out. The Tribune loves.
But doesn't this get back to the schism that you have within? Some people say that the word progressive doesn't mean anything because everybody wants to use the label. But for some people, it means good government. But oftentimes, these are people that have that kind of Republican fiscal austerity as well, right? So is that progressivism, or are we talking more like Bernie Sanders, where we're talking about trying to use the state to improve people's lives? Those are two very different things.
Absolutely.
And people have oftentimes been confused by that.
And I will say this about that. Anybody who claims to be a reformer or a good government candidate in Illinois is probably lying.
Or a neoliberal.
Because they probably supported Richard M. Daley.
Sure.
And I would not say that Richard M. Daley...
How many times did the Tribune editorial board support Richard M. Daley?
Thank you. I could have said it better myself.
Yeah. But now they're complaining about
Michael Madigan.
Yeah.
Dawn Clark-Netsch endorsed Richard M. Daley, didn't she?
Yeah, but that's not the point I'm making.
But now they're complaining about pensions and all the city pension issues. They supported the guy that never funded the pensions.
That is correct.
Every single time.
Every single time. Yep. So I have a real hard time buying into the notion that there is reform in Illinois. As I always tell, my opinion is reform is just a way of saying I want to take money that usually goes to working class people, pensioners, etc., and give it to the Amazons of the world. That's what, in my humble opinion, reform means in the state of Illinois. Feel free to vigorously disagree with me if you want.
I don't think you're going to find it here.
Okay. All right. We're almost out of time. Man, this thing went fast with the political know-it-alls. Any update? Anything else you want to add or say? Any promotions you want to do, young Dan? Usually you have something to say before we let you get out the door. No? Nothing? Cut you off guard there.
Let Jacob go first.
Anything? No? Any words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. You probably talked about the state's attorney's race before, but anybody who's paying attention, of course, the party supporting Kim Foxx, pay a lot of attention to Bill Conway and where his money's coming from.
His dad.
I know, but his dad with his private equity firm and what they've been all about and all the money they've made from terrible things. So don't get fooled by those commercials that are on there constantly. That's all I got to say.
What's that?
Bill the Bro?
Yeah.
Bill the Bro. I like it. I like it.
Guys, that's how we had the whole discussion of bros versus hipsters. We've been playing the Bill Conway commercials and analyzing them, and my theory, as I've stated many times, is I don't understand why anybody would choose this particular race to launch his political career in Cook County or Illinois, because the symbolism of the counterattack to Kim Foxx, whether you like her or not, is pro-Trump. In other words, the counterattack is largely rooted in the view that she was too lenient on Justice Smollett-Gate. And I welcome the investigation into Smollett-Gate, but that's a different issue than launching her political career, tying it to a revolt against Kim Foxx that's essentially coming from the right. You follow what I just said.
They are, but then the funny thing is that he's running a commercial claiming that he's a champion of criminal justice reform. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy is beyond me.
Well,
and it's the guy that wants the votes of a bunch of cops and
Speaking of
conservative
hypocrisy,
folks.
your colleague many times in
Which
the
one?
past, who was in the Hideout, right?
Mick Dumke.
Mick
Yeah.
Dumke, right?
My dear friend, yeah.
He wrote an excellent article how on the northwest side of Chicago you had Republicans that were hoping to catapult their way into relevance again based on housing issues. And one of the interesting things that you've seen in this cycle is where Republicans, having had that effort kind of spin out of control and go nowhere, are now running as Democrats. John Garrido, who
My old friend, John Garrido.
the famous quote where I only voted as a Democrat. He made that quote. I only voted as a Democrat so that I could just get the weakest candidate. Is now running for judge.
Yes, he is.
As a Democrat.
I like John Garrido.
You have where on the northwest side, there's a Chicago police officer running against our good friend Rob Martwick.
Yeah.
That police officer in 2016 pulled a Republican ballot, and if you look at the commentary, Alderman Napolitano's endorsement basically says, well, we can't win if he actually says he's a Republican. And this is on Facebook, which, I just wonder to myself, do you guys realize anyone can read this when you post it on Facebook, right?
That is a good point.
It's out in the public. And, you have these people who don't understand how technology works, and they're like, yeah, that's right, we got to get them. And so you wonder, do you think that there will be Republicans that are going to be pulling a Democratic ballot just to vote for these folks?
No. I feel like that would be where do I put this? A lot of ignorance on the part of the electorate. All right, we run out of time. Young Daniel, thank you very much. Jacob Kaplan, thank you. Jacob Kaplan, I should say. Larry Cohen, man, he was awesome in the 2 o'clock hour with Peter Janko, good friend of the show. And Romana Hussein, it was a long time ago. This show's been going on a long time. D, we better get out of here so you can post it. So I just want to say one more time, as Jacob and Dan know, I want to thank this young man.
Well, I just want to say it's a sad day in the rock and roll world. Neil Peart, drummer of Rush, died.
Wow.
Rest in peace, man.
Yikes.
We used to talk about Rush all the time in the old show with Bob Ryder. Anyway,
I guess once weed went legal, just too much for the guy.
I'm not going to touch that one. Good job as always.
Thanks.
And as Jacob Kaplan can tell you, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you on Tuesday, everybody.
I gotta say, better than Dr. Doobie. And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews, like this weekend's bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, and wherever else you download your favorite podcast downloaders. We live stream this show. Yes, it's true. Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time, once again at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. Join us, won't you? We have a live stream chat. And it was happening today. People going back and forth, debating, making fun of Ben. Good times. I'm not Dr. Doobie. We'll see you Tuesday.